Hi, friends, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. Remember when I used to go out with somebody who would say boo when I started live streaming? How awful that was. You know I can't stay away from you, internet friends. I'm like a giddy schoolgirl with her first crush. My first crush is internet friends, and hi, internet friends. Of course, that's a different kind of crush than the kind of crush I have on Rachel, for example, which is a crush that involves
I think that solidifies the sample of our relationship.
A little what?
I think that solidifies.
Oh, it solidifies, right? Yeah. You know, everybody can thank their existence to the source of everybody's existence.
It's true.
And I would say that the success of the species to populate the planet so fully shows that we are, in fact, pretty good at having sex as a species. Pretty good at reproducing. Pretty good at having sex. I think we're even better at having sex than we are at reproducing because, in fact, of all species, we probably produce the fewest offspring per sexual encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because most of the time, for most people, when they're having sexual intercourse, they don't want to produce a baby. The vast majority of the occasions in which they are, reproducing, quote unquote, mating, they don't actually want to create an offspring. There is another species that I was watching a show about the other day, or a little video about, that only mates once every 3 to 4 years because they only mate when there's a bumper crop of this certain berry. I think it was these weird parrots, these ground parrots that kind of look like sloths.
Oh yeah.
They kind of act like sloths. Anyhow, they only mate every few years. So that's, but see, probably the percentage of instances in which they mate that produce an offspring is close to 100% if they only mate every few years. Like, if humans only mated every few years, then we probably wouldn't spend very much money on contraception, I guess. Because, or maybe it would be such an event that, you'd be super contraceptive if you didn't want to have one. I don't know. Like if people take contraception, like ladies take birth control pills sometimes, and they take it every day, but it prevents them from getting pregnant at any given moment.
Yeah. So
if you only had mated once every 3 years, then the kind of birth control would probably be very different. Frank Sinatra's Stunted Feelings. So I guess what I want to talk about in this stream really is how FI PoLR plays out different and what it really fundamentally means, though, regardless. So it's like FI PoLR means, well, okay, let me start with this. And I'd love anybody here who feels like answering to answer this question as well. How does it feel to be you? Or, the question is normally asked, well, how does it feel to be an ENTP? How does it feel to be an INFJ? I never really known what to do with that question at all when it's asked to me, or when I hear it asked to somebody else. It seems very weird to me to even have an idea what that might mean. So what I tried to do is, I have a Quora account. I used to run a Quora some. To the extent that I would use Quora now, it would be to try to answer a Quora question, to make a video. That's one thing I've done in the past. But I've got so many topics for videos anyway that I don't do then. Well, sure. So, I mean, the thing is, how does it feel to be you? I thought about it in the car after a while. Like, okay, well, how would you answer that question? And how would I answer the question? And the conclusion I came up with is, always a little afraid that I've forgotten about something important. That's what it feels like to be an ENTP, quote unquote. But it made me think I would like to boil every type down to, or I'd like to hear what other people would say their own experiences. Forget about type for a second. It's just, forget about, I don't know if that's an ENTP thing or an Eric thing. But when I thought a lot about it in the car for, a minute solid or something, I concluded, that was the NI conclusion I came up with, that the thing that, if I had to boil down what it feels like to be me, it feels like you're always a little bit worried that you're forgetting something important. And what I thought thereafter that is, it's probably more FI polar than anything else. Because, I wrestle with my relationship with my dad in the sense that I feel inadequate. Hi, CJ O'Connell. I feel like I'm not being enough of a family member for him. I'm not hanging out with him enough. I'm not incorporating myself into his activities enough. Of course, when I try to, it never goes well. I went in yesterday near the end of a game in the fourth quarter that was very close, and I said, the TV was on and it was showing a different game, but I wasn't sure if it was showing highlights of a game or if that was the game that was on right then, And so, my dad looked up and I walked in. What's up? And I said, just wondering if you were watching the end of the Pittsburgh game, because it's pretty exciting. And it was one of, is there something wrong with your TV? So it's like no, Dad, I just and the fact is we couldn't successfully really watch it out here because CBS doesn't let you watch live streams of their football games, even if you have cable. Like most of those sort of things, like if you can see it on your TV because of your cable, then you can see it on your computer as a stream too. David Sanderson says, I think you could amass a high following by writing high quality answers, and it could help you maintain your TI sharpness. You can get pretty big on that site. It's work, but I'd argue it's worth it. It's the sort of thing that I'd normally dismiss out of hand as yet another suggestion that I spend work on some other platform. Except I actually, as I'm musing about it, I think Quora and YouTube might be good ways to garner independent populations of people who know about me. And at any point, then it's like I don't care about being big on Quora, but if it successfully, but I am trying to think now more in terms of like, okay, I've got to raise my visibility level as a presidential candidate, so I'm going to have to diversify some here, and it's a good suggestion, David Sanderson. I think maybe I ought to return to Quora. Yeah, if you want to recommend a good question, I will answer it, and we'll go from there. Of course, the thing is, as I have a lot of my I have a lot of my energies directed towards expressing myself, and it is the case that there are multiple ways in which you can express yourself, some of which are more suited to my strengths than others. Live streaming is very well suited to my strengths, but doesn't necessarily reward them. In contrast, I suspect that some place like Quora would both be very appropriate to my strengths and would reward them more, because I'd probably be more TI. I mean, the thing is, when I write, I'm more TI or more FE or more both and less NE. And so it's gonna validate on both those metrics more. Frank Sinatra is FI polar. Well, that's what I'm supposing. Because here's the thing about what does it mean to be FI polar? It means you're not valuing that which is important to you enough. So when I say my fear is that I'm forgetting something important, it's an SI-FI thing that's creating that fear. And I wonder if anybody who's here would be willing to try to reduce their own experience to a fear, even if you don't think your own experience fundamentally reduces to a fear. If you had to reduce it to a fear in the way that I just did, which is I always fear like I'm forgetting something important, what would your fear be? Rachel said, what did you say again?
Not having a purpose.
Not having a purpose. That at the end of the day, she's not impactful, useful, or purposeful in any meaningful sense. No, Legends falling on timeout. The thing is, most of the time I am forgetting something important. I only pay attention to what's in front of me for the most part. But The Power of Now wasn't written by an ESP, because ESPs need a book called The Power of Not Now. Yeah. That's probably ENFJ or ENTJ. I've heard from both Nick Saban and Pete Carroll. I've heard both of them talk about it. Let me see what the question is. Is there a point where the shutdown of the economy will be worse than the spread of COVID-19? I mean, that's not typically a question I would answer. It'll be interesting to see what you think are good questions. I don't really think that's a good question for a variety of reasons. Zandy fears being all alone, abandonment, everyone leaving her life. So she's an ENFJ. I don't know if that's common for ENFJs. INFJ, a fear of losing your wallet, phone, cigarettes, and lighter, because I lose them all the time. So you're constantly sort of patting your pockets and keeping track of your possessions. Does that really sort of occupy you ontologically, or have you habituated the behavior of patting and checking so that it's not really a fear? Like, when I say I have a sort of ongoing fear of forgetting something important, I think, it's more like, well, for example, when we were driving back we just went to Vasquez Rocks, which is a very nice, really lovely nature area north of Los Angeles in what's called Canyon Country. And what was that time? Oh, and driving back, I had this vague fear that there was something looming that I had forgotten about, wasn't intending to, should be taken care of instead of this, right? Like, I think it might be a bit of a 7 thing too, that, I'm playing, and have I been playing too long? And am I going to get in trouble? Am I supposed to be doing something else? Am I supposed to be doing something else? Or am I supposed to have been someplace else, and where I'm right now is a constant underlying sort of white noise fear. It's not like I focus on it or think about it every time. I had to think a lot to realize that probably is the best expression of what it's like to be me, what it feels like to be me, which was the original question. So I asked everybody to reduce it to a fear, but when that doesn't mean, like, for example, Zandy, maybe it doesn't. What does it feel like to be Zandy? If she probably would not answer. I don't know what you would answer. I don't want to put any words in her mouth at all. But I am not saying that she would answer. I walk around with a sort of white noise of fear of abandonment. I'm not concluding that everybody needs to reduce their lives to a fear. So, okay, well, let me tell you why I didn't like that question. First of all, it's a softball question. In other words, it's designed to incite advocacy against COVID. So I don't like to play those kind of games. You know, if you want to ask a real question, don't throw a softball and try to incite people to hit it a nice looking home run for you, right? The other thing is, it's like political questions would be great, but COVID is there's the question of whether or not it's like, okay, the question at this point should be either let's resolve that the current response is catastrophically bad or not. And so the way this question is framed is saying it's very instrumental. It's like, let's inch people along towards the truth. Well, I don't like to play that game. It's catastrophically bad. It's been catastrophically bad from the first moment. The negative impacts immediately outweighed all the rest of the impacts, because after all the rest of the impacts were speculative. And like I said, the mechanism didn't work to attain the outcome it wanted. So it's like the whole frame is set up wrong, you know? And that shit's past old too. Yeah, that's the other thing. Whether or not it's going to harm the economy so much at some point that it makes it not worth it. I mean, it presumes that at some point it was worth it. And I'm bored of talking with COVID, and it's not the sort of thing where it's the sort of thing you get bogged down in too. There's a lot of issues to it. There's the issue of, is it or is it not man-made? There's the issue of just how many harms are associated with it. Because, you know, they keep posting things like, it turns out foggy brain is a long-term consequence of having had COVID for some people. And it turns out there's some other possible long-term consequence that was random. I don't remember what it was. I just read it yesterday or something. Let me look at Google News. Symptoms of COVID. So I always get all these brand new exciting symptoms, okay? So here's the thing. COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Infected people have a wide range of symptoms reported, from mild symptoms to severe illnesses. The thing is, any symptom that a person is experiencing right now, if they've had COVID, they are being, what's that word? Like primed. They're being primed to conclude that it might be a long-term COVID virus symptom. Delirium may be the new symptom of COVID infection. Patients have been complaining of memory loss, brain fog, confusion, PTSD, anxiety, cognitive drain weeks after the viral load goes away. Okay, so why are we concluding it's linked to coronavirus then? Well, because all the ones who are complaining about it have it. Okay, fine, that's a good enough reason. But here's a new one. COVID-19 makes tinnitus worse. New symptom. This is November 5th. New research reveals that tinnitus, a common condition that causes the perception of noise in the ear and head, is being exacerbated by COVID-19. The study, which involved 3,000 participants from 48 countries, found that 40% of those displaying symptoms of COVID-19 simultaneously experiencing a worsening of their tinnitus. All right, so it's like, the thing that people aren't thinking about is, what other virus, if we were to afford it this kind of studying, wouldn't reveal this endless series of possible correlates to which there might be a linkage to COVID? And the more you do it and hype it, the more likely people are to perceive hypochondriacally, or what's it called, psychosomatically, that they've got these weird symptoms. I've been different ever since COVID. Of course, ever since COVID, we've all been different because we've been locked up in our houses, and it affects our mental health. It affects our physical health as well. It fucks with our immune system. Our immune system. Okay. Well, I mean, look. This is what I would say is I would like to answer questions like I'd like to answer questions about rhetoric or debate that link to, how do people, what are people doing when meow happens or something? Those are nice. Those would be nice. I would like to link to more specific policy questions. So that question that's being answered there in the one that you suggested well precedes the policy question. It's saying we still aren't agreeing on what the facts are, so we can't even begin to talk about what we should do about the facts now. Right. Well, Dr. Logi, I've been thinking that as well. Everyone's immune system is accustomed to processing a fair amount of different viruses that people pass back and forth between each other. And like they recommend to young parents of young children, don't keep them isolated from friends and family and stuff. Let them go outside, let them get dirt, let them get those colds, let them build up their immune system. It's like their muscles. Can you imagine if we said, well, sometimes people injure themselves severely when they try to pick up stuff that's too heavy. So in order to discourage that, we're not going to let our child pick up anything heavy. Well, then their muscles would be tiny and atrophied, and this potential risk of getting injured by picking up something too heavy, instead of now it being at 100-pound thing, it's at a 10-pound thing. You haven't fixed the problem. You've shifted the scale at which it occurs. As far as herd immunity, I'm not saying that we're going to get herd immunity. I'm not recommending we let it run its course because we're going to get herd immunity. Why aren't we going to get herd immunity? Because it's a coronavirus. You can't get immune to it. It's like the common cold. You can get it over and over again. I think it's unlikely they'll be able to actually make a vaccine for it. So the reason we should let it run its course is not because of herd immunity. It's because it's more or less the common cold with a tiny percentage of freakishly bad interactions with the virus. You can't get chicks anymore. That's a pretty important reason too, 3DR Nomad. Nomad makes a good point here. He says, besides all the issues you covered in previous videos, I can't get chicks anymore. I mean, you can get chicks who oppose the COVID nonsense, but it basically eliminates all your SFJs and all your STJs. And that's a lot of chicks. That's like the majority of the chicks, right? It's like 50% of the chicks. 50% of people are either maybe 40%, I don't know, are either SFJs or STJs. I bet you that those four types comprise 40% of the total population.
Yeah.
What type is Frank Sinatra? I think Frank Sinatra is an ESTP. And I think so because and one reason is he was a notorious philanderer. And at the same time, when Ava Gardner, so he was married to someone, I forget who, and then Ava Gardner seduced him, was a homewrecker, seduced him, and he cheated on his wife with Ava Gardner. Then Ava Gardner cheated on him and left him, and he sort of pined for her the rest of his life, or at least, I didn't read it today, but I remember reading sometime before him saying things like, well, that was the woman he really loved the most. Stuff. That one. Oh, okay. Well, let me open up Quora. I have it open. So what should I put in the search thing? Just tell me what to put in the search thing. And then I'll put that. And it'll take me there. It'll take me home tonight. Did Frank write his own music? No, by and large, I don't think so. Wasn't the legal foundation of the right to privacy a shaky premise by the U.S. Supreme Court for overriding the power of the states to prohibit abortion in the historic Roe versus Wade case? That's a good question. Is that the first time the Supreme Court referenced the right to privacy? It might be. Of course, the problem is there is no right to privacy. So yeah, that would be a good question to answer potentially. That's a long question to answer. It's like, okay, it's either a very short answer. It's either a very short question to answer or a very long question to answer. The short answer is yes, the right to privacy was first referenced by the Supreme Court in justifying their Roe v. Wade decision. But the long answer is stop trying to make the problem with privacy rights about abortion. See, this question conflates two issues. I would much rather answer the question, is there really a right to privacy? Why or why not? Than something that makes me address two separate issues in one question. Because while it is true that the legal reference to a right to privacy may have originated in that case, but to the extent that we have the issues about the right to privacy analyzed through that case, then we politicize the issue of the right to privacy and make it harder for people to be objective about the actual issue, which is there is no right to privacy. There's a right to property. So if in fact Roe v. Wade is the correct decision, it should be that it's a property rights violation. Adrian B., you are correct. Chickenpox is a virus that you get, once you get it, you get immunity to it. And people are, in fact, subject to herd immunity with that kind of virus. Damien Dirk, like all coronaviruses are particularly resistant to vaccination because typically the vaccines will only keep you immune for a few months. So you have to get vaccinated so often. It is possible to come up with a vaccine for coronavirus, but there's something about it. And I don't understand I'm not claiming to understand the biomed of it, the whole thing. Okay. I don't know why this is the case, but it is the case with coronaviruses that they're particularly difficult to vaccinate for. Flu's another example. You can vaccinate for it, but you got to update every year. Well, coronavirus is one of those things that your body can't stay vaccinated to it. Chickenpox, your body stays vaccinated to it usually for your entire life. So different kinds of viruses. First question is there really a right to privacy? If so, why or why not? That would be a better question because it lets me address the issue of a right to privacy without having to involve the prickly issue of abortion. All points out, interesting fact about Frank Sinatra is that he was afraid of cows and lived his life in utter fear. Okay, so Ethan McDonald, I am not very married to the opinion that Frank Sinatra is an ESTP. I don't really know what type he is. I was just thinking that if he were FI PoLR, that would explain his strange relationship with his feelings, not really knowing who he wants to be with, and ultimately wanting the person who thinks he's not good enough for her because he assumes she must be the one who's most accurately understanding his own lack of worth. That seemed like an FI. I like that explanation for Frank Sinatra's relationship with Ava Gardner. Whether or not it's accurate and Frank Sinatra is an ESP, I do not know. But I thought it was revelatory about how FI PoLR might go or might play out, since it's not knowing what's important to you. And that I think that so the other component of this is people ask, well, can you get better at your PoLR? You can't get better at it per se. but you can learn that if you don't supervise it, it can burn down the house pretty easily, So you can learn that that when I trust what I feel like doing tonight, right now, because we're partying, and I trust that over what my positions on things are, then that will not turn out well. Like if I cheat because I want it right now, even though I am opposed to that, well, that's gonna create it's like I cheated when I was like 18, I think I was, one time, and then I never cheated again because I understood what was required of it.
I feel lucky for that you've already gone through that.
Okay, I will answer this question for sure. Thank you. But I'm live streaming right now. Sell medicine and call MBTI bipolar. I heard Frank Sinatra took a girl to the haunted mansion ride at Disney. It scared him right out of his pants. At least that's what he told the judge. Alt, I like so the strategy of these alt jokes here is to delay your awareness that there's a joke until the last second, right? Like it's one of those kind of jokes. So it sounds really, really like he starts off by going, what someone might reveal a genuine anecdote. Like, did you know that Frank Sinatra was really easily frightened? He actually went to took a girl on the haunted mansion ride at Disney, thinking, hey, there's a chance to get closer. But he was so scary, it scared him right out of his pants. At least that's what he told the judge. So the idea of that kind of joke in the previous one is that you sell it like you're telling a different kind of funny thing, and then you realize that it's this other kind of funny thing, No, I'm just describing the form. I know I told the same joke that he just told. I'm demonstrating it in terms of the forms. Like I added vocal tone to it to show how I'm leading on this path, and then meow. I'm doing joke analysis, Louis the 17th. You can't do joke analysis without quoting a joke. Am I diagnosing Frank Sinatra as TI tool? Let me just say, Dr. Virus, I am not remotely married to this typing of Frank Sinatra as ESTP. I thought the explanation of his relationship with Ava Gardner and kind of with women in general seemed to be a good way to explain what one of the phenomena of FI polar, regardless of whether he is actually FI polar or not, which is you don't really understand your own value and you don't know what you want. And so, if you don't learn to have a grown up supervisorial relationship kind of over your polar, it can get you into trouble. So Frank Sinatra was empowered so much in his FE by being famous and stuff that I don't know. I don't think he realized. I don't think he could ever figure out what woman he wanted. Like he had 2 engagements after Ava Gardner left him that he ended before they actually got married. So he got engaged twice, and then first time he was like, oh, okay, I'm gone. I know I'm over Ava Gardner. I'm over her. I want to marry you, new lady, Lauren Bacall or whatever it was. And then after a couple months, he's like, yeah, you know what? I kind of jumped the gun on that. And then he's like, okay, how about you, new lady? You, Julie Powell. I want to marry you. Let's get engaged. We're going to go out in public and show that we're engaged. I'm going to show that I'm okay to everybody. And then I'm going to realize after a couple of months, oh, I don't want to marry you. And then then de-engage, Yes, it's one of two action functions. Extroverted sensing. It's the way to take action without words. Yes, and he was also father to Nancy Sinatra, but no, there wasn't any incest. Different Nancy. Also, Nancy Sinatra had intercourse with Frank Sinatra, but Frank Sinatra was also Nancy Sinatra's son. However, still no incest because they each had their own junior. My experience with FI PoLR was like I asked Kimberly to marry me and we got engaged, and I had to call off that engagement when I realized what a wreck that I was getting myself into here, you know?
Oh my God, don't ever. I would be. Please don't. If you're going to get engaged with me, don't pull away.
Well, I mean, you got to remember that Kimberly had to really fuck up. She had to cross a really big boundary of mine for me to call off the engagement. And, you know, I had no business really getting engaged with her in the first place since it was not a good relationship. But I was part of being SI fourth and FI PoLR is I have no concept of what a good relationship is or not, whether I'm in a good relationship or not, until I've experienced it myself, and probably for quite some time, because SI doesn't pick up on FI stuff really. It picks up on SI stuff. So, you know, my SI will go, why am I so tired and not moving around a lot and doing stuff like usual? And it takes me a while to go, oh, I think that's called depressed, Eric. I think you're sad. Yeah, I know Frank Sinatra. So Frank Sinatra married, did he marry Mia Farrow? Yeah, he did marry her, right? So he married Mia Farrow. They were married through from like 1966 to 1968 or something like that. And then Mia Farrow eventually revealed that Frank Sinatra might be the father of Mia Farrow's son, Ronan Farrow. But remember, Ronan Farrow was born in 1985. So Frank Sinatra split up with Mia Farrow in 1968 and was still fucking her almost 20 full years later. No, because a personality type is not a disorder. You don't need to be diagnosed of it. You know, a diagnostic manual is for people who have something wrong with them. Typology is not about saying, here's what's wrong with you. President Donald Trump and his first wife, Ivana, also have son and daughter juniors. It's like, talk about countervalued NE. Don't change anything. All of my sons are all named Eric. Why did you name us all Eric, Dad? I hate new names. I hate the fact that people even have different names. Everybody should be named whatever the first guy was named. Why do we need to change something that worked the first time? If it works, don't fix it. So, like the first guy, let's say his name was Joe. That worked. He had the name Joe. Everybody knew what to call him. Why do we need to change it now? Why not just call everybody Joe? What type of precedent are we setting for future elections with this election? I mean, election protocols are one of the things in government that really isn't particularly subject to precedent at all. States, localities are constantly changing their election protocols. So I don't think it really sets any precedent. I guess you could say this one sets more of a precedent than previous ones because it's pressed the government to make it so that people don't have to go to a specific place to vote. I think that's the lasting impact of COVID more than anything else, which is like from now on, parents are probably going to be able to successfully say, well, I want my kid to take it remotely at the school, It's going to be hard for the schools to say, you can't do that. Why? Well, why not? I've been doing it for the last year. My kid's been doing remote classes for a year. I don't want it to go to school. It's a hassle. Or, even better, play are you trying to tell me I have to put my child at risk of contracting COVID?
You know the parent games.
I mean, the thing is, of course, that's the sort of stuff that, like, that sort of stuff I think is maybe the most evil of all, right? Like, it is absolutely correct that the parents should be able to do their class remotely. And it's absolutely correct that the school should have less overall control over these children's lives. It's also absolutely correct that mandatory school itself is a holocaust of rights violations. But what seems worst of all is to successfully get your way about it because of the wrong reason. I want parents to have that leverage so that they don't have to send their kids to school. I think forcing kids to go to a school is bad. It's like, that's how come bullying and shit occurs. That's how come people are traumatized by their school years and how they're treated by other children who haven't learned compassion for some reason or don't have empathy yet for other people anyway. It's like children have a lot of empathy for animals.
Yeah.
But if they view you as the out group, if they view you as other, then they have no compassion for you at all. And this is probably true of most children.
Mm-hmm.
Sean O'Neill, I disagree with you. It's inherent to schools because without forcing everybody to stay in the same place together, it's pretty hard for victimizers and victims to be able to continually victimize people over time. If all the parties have freedom of movement. Look, obviously, like sociopaths are sociopaths. Who's calling me? Let's see. Jeff Small. Hi. Tonight? Well, I'm live streaming right now. I'm about 45 minutes in. I usually live stream for an hour and a half or so. I've only read the first half of it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's no problem. Or if he doesn't mind us talking, if he doesn't mind people hearing his voice but not seeing him, we wouldn't be able to see him. But if he wants to go to Autonomy and talk to me about it right now, I'd be happy to talk to him about it during the live stream. They won't see him, but they will be able to hear his voice. If you're fine with that, then we can talk about it right now. Okay, fine. No problem. Okay, well then, I don't know, because I'm looking at another 45 minutes, an hour of live streaming. So unless he wants to go at 10 o'clock or something, it's probably not going to happen tonight. Did he read them? Okay. All right. Well, if he wants to go to Tony right now, they'll just hear sort of a muffled his voice. I guess I could put him on the headphones, and then you wouldn't have to worry about anybody hearing his voice even. Jeffrey's mom. That is the most ridiculous thing in the world. You know, I live stream all the time. I talk about everything in my life. I say, my client Jeffrey, he's a debater. I said his name already 10,000 times on live streams. So, I'm currently being asked, is it possible that inferior extroverted sensing can be partly treated with medicine like Ritalin to take more action? What do you think, Jeffrey's mom? All right, cool. All right, cool. All right, sure. No problem. Bye. Anti-polar. Anti-polar's like, well, don't say his name. You got to be kidding me. How many Jeffs are there in the world? There's got to be 40 million Jeffs in the United States. I mean, come on now. Amphetamines calm your INTP mind. Yeah. Amphetamines are proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. It's a paraphrase of the Benjamin Franklin quote. So
what's great pictures?
What's my answer to what? Did I forget what we were talking about? Yeah. Feeling blue? Have you tried a pinch of meth? Yeah, he's a debater. He's a high school debater. It's not Jeff Shaw. No. No, it's not Jeff Shaw's mom. That would be funny if Jeff Shaw's mom called and apologized for him.
That's so funny that they have the same name.
Sean O'Neill says the bullying isn't the same at well-to-do schools. The bullies have a shitty home life. I mean, bullying was incredibly bad when I was school, and I went to Arcadia schools, and they're very well-to-do. It's better now, I think, than it used to be. When what was the question again? Let me see. Oh, inferior SE. All right, I asked the question to Winston, not Winston's mom, Jeffrey's mom. Is it possible inferior SE can be partly treated with medicine? I don't think SE fourth necessarily gets motivated to take any particular more action when it's amped up, but I think it makes them more enthusiastic about whatever it is they're doing. I think it makes them have more lasting power, like staying power, more constitution, I guess. Of course, as with anybody, then it's the next day you're going to feel tired and stuff. Maybe SE activating drugs bring SE polar people to baseline. Is that a reasonable theory? I think that with the reason amphetamines don't work well on INTPs and INFPs is that the amphetamines are still subject to the frame of being deliberation dominant any user. So, in other words, they will be thwacked out, but they're already doing stuff. They're on the computer. They're here typing in the chat. They'll just do that more. It's not like they don't really get the frame of reference that you've got to shift over into doing stuff that you don't really feel like right now. So if you want to get an INTP or an INFP to do even more extroverted intuition, go ahead and give them amphetamines. But that's already their problem. They're tool functioning extroverted intuition, and they're deliberating so much they never get around to SEing. Getting to do more of the wrong kind of action isn't going to help them. They don't have, like I have SE 8 slot. So it really pushes me to do more NE, more TIFE stuff. But the 8 slot is dragged along as an autopilot. Oh, I got to do this now. Oh, I got to do this now. It's unconscious for me. Whereas it's polar for INTPs and INFPs. As far as for 4th slot, I think they like it plenty. You know, it's like it's fine for them, but it doesn't change their fundamental frame of reference either. They're still receivers. You know, it's like, I'm thwacked out on knowing more. I really like to know now. I'm thwacked out on deliberating more. I'm really deliberate now. I'm thwacked out on interfacing with people more. I'm really social now. I'm thwacked out on solving problems now. It's like INTJ takes amphetamines. One presumably would get some probably pretty good results from that, I would guess, because they probably do a bunch more NITE shit. And their SE is sort of, again, like dragged along. But the best thing to do if you want to have maximal impacts from amphetamines is to really be an ENTP, because then you get thwacked out on doing the thing that you naturally do, which is talking and expressing yourself. And I mean, you want to talk about what thwacked out on doing looks like. Well, when I look at my channel videos here and look at the live videos, I see the last video was 2 hours, 41 minutes live stream, then a 5 hour, 33 minute live stream. There was a 2 hour, 3 minute live stream before that. And that takes me back to November 8th. Today is the 9th. Okay. So again, I see in my list of streams here, a 2 hour, 41 minute live stream, a 5 hour, 33 minute live stream, a 38 minute and 57 second live stream that I didn't bother even mentioning before because it's so short, but it's still 40 minutes long, and a 2 hour and 40 minute live stream. Those are the last 4 live streams I have. And that takes me back to November 8th. And today is November 9th. So that's what it means to be thwacked out on acting when you're an NE user. However, being an NE user means that my SE is dragged along, as in, well, I want to make a video on this idea. Instead of like just musing about it or whatever, I start typing into Google Docs. Oh, this is, and before I know it, I've got, and then half time I go, oh shit, what am I making here? What am I doing? This is too big, or this is too complicated, or this is too whatever. Like half the time, some distance into the task, I go, okay, stop, Eric, stop thwacking out on this. Put down the shit and just take a drink of water and go back to the bridge of the Enterprise and say, okay, Uhura, what's going on with your shit? Sulu, what's going on with your shit over there? Dr. McCoy, am I healthy? Okay, Spock, is everything logical? You know, I got my whole crew of the Enterprise there. They're supposed to be guiding me, but instead, I've got the red shirt guy who's always like, charge! And so I was, red shirt guy, get back here. We need to consult with the other guys. God giveth and God taketh. True that. Also,
God giveth me a kitty friend, a very important kitty friend.
though, I would say
Oh yeah.
God's looking out for you. You know, he doesn't want to bust you. He doesn't want to bust you down too bad. And he tries to give you warnings ahead of time. Like, you know, God's warned me, and I've ignored the warning before, and I've incurred my consequences. The slabs are the final word. A perfect example is God worked so hard to try to get me to not be so cavalier about smoking weed in Middle America, and I just God, and I got arrested. So it cost me, you know, all told, it cost me a shit ton, because it wasn't just the $1,100 in fines that I had to pay to be let go. It was also the impound fee that I had to pay to get my car out. And then the most expensive thing of all, they broke my fucking car. So they broke the rack and pinion, which is a pretty big deal. So I was driving down the highway at highway speed, and my right front tire suddenly was no longer attached to the axle. It was just like this. So I could turn the other wheel, but the right one was just loose. And that's what happens when your rack and pinion breaks. And when I managed to successfully get it over to the side of the road, I even managed to successfully get it to the drive it to a service station, even though it. Hold on one second. Even though it I had it like spun around in a circle on a couple of occasions. It's really hard to get it to go in the direction you want it to when one of the wheels isn't on the axle. Yeah, give me 1 second. Hi, what's going on? Oh, okay, I'll go there. Same place. Okay, bye. All right, so just to fill everybody in on what we're talking about here, we're talking about a pretty important book, pretty important movie. It's called Persepolis.
Yeah, it's good.
They made a movie out of it, apparently. Rachel saw it. Okay, so what are your questions, Jeffrey?
So I'm on chapter 2, and I have a couple questions from here, starting from the first page. So the analogy about the bicycle, is that literally just an analogy, or is there a deeper meaning?
What's chapter 2? I don't see them numbered. What's that?
Oh, yeah. It starts on page 40.
There's on page 40?
Oh, 10. The page numbers are, I can't read their page numbers.
I know, it's tiny font. I need to put my reading glasses on. Okay, so it starts at page what?
Page 10.
Okay.
Is it just an analogy, or is there any deeper meaning to it?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's just, well, it's an analogy in a sense that this is revealing a child being indoctrinated into a political family, into a strongly left political indoctrination. So, you know, they're Iranians who, as it shows here, it's like first they had their own emperors, then the Arab invasion from the west, followed by the Mongol invasion from the east, and finally modern imperialism. And so it made the girl, I mean, is this the main character? This is the main character, right? Yeah, okay. It's not one of her relatives from the past. Sometimes they do those like flashbacks to their ancestors, and it gets a little confusing. Okay, so this is occurring around the time when the Shah of Iran is being replaced by the Ayatollah. Okay, so she's talking about being indoctrinated in communist doctrine. So it's like she's saying our country should be like North Korea, or like some of the countries in South America that for a while were trying to turn commie, or some of those other countries where the current problem of authoritarianism is solved by a different form of authoritarianism. And kind of that's what it means by the bicycle falls when the wheels don't roll. But really what it means is if we don't continue to act on behalf of this cause, then the revolution won't happen. It requires everybody to take action and follow through and do their thing for it to happen. So in that regard, it's kind of justifying bad behavior as well.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. So on the next page, when she compares Marx to God, is she basically portraying Marx as, is she basically just showing how highly she regards Marx?
I mean, I think the thing is, she says her favorite book is a comic book called Dialectic Materialism. I haven't actually Googled it. I wondered about that myself, but she's basically saying how her childhood characters in her head were not Cinderella and the Little Mermaid and the Lion King and stuff like that. They were these very dense, turn of the century philosophers, and so she's basically trying to explain that her life as a child was defined by the era in which she grew up and the time and the things that were happening, because the Shah was the Shah of all gets me again. You got me again, motherfucker. So the Shah of Iran represents Western imperialism because he was an installed like puppet dictator for the U.S. that facilitated the U.S. getting more out of the whole oil thing, like either getting the oil and paying very little for it, or owning the rights to it, or whatever the arrangement was. It was some bullshit arrangement that didn't serve the Iranian people at all, but kept the Shah of Iran really rich and helped the American economy or something like that. So the thing is that the whole communist stuff is just, and the philosopher stuff is the times and the conflict between the Islamists and the imperialist-backed puppets compelled her to look for a third option, and that was found in Marx and other philosophers, even though she was just a little girl.
I see. And do you think juxtaposition, her comparison of God to Marx, or what is that? Just basically.
I mean, I think what she's saying is, it's trying to show you that she has it's not on my phone. Why am I looking there? It's a book. That's right. It's an actual book, Eric. Okay. I think what she's saying there is these are the various factors that she had to incorporate into her own childhood mythologies. So every child is told various stories, like about Santa Claus and about God and about meow and about meow. I have 2 million plus videos, question mark. Anyway, 2 million plus views. I mean, not videos, views. So I think what they're saying is this child's landscape of archetypes was very confused. In other words, it had a lot of conflicting symbolic figures. The Shah representing Western imperialism. She's never actually experiencing Western imperialism directly. Like, in other words, there aren't Americans coming around and whipping her family or something. Instead, she's being told about it as a narrative. She's not experienced that there was a time when the Iranians ruled themselves before the invasion from the Arabs, and then the invasion from the Mongols, and the invasion ultimately of the Western imperialists, who, instead of conquering the country, tried to puppeteer it by installing people that would do what they say, right? So the girl's not experienced any of those things, but she's being told these stories. Additionally, she's reading these philosophers, and additionally, she's being indoctrinated into a more mild form of Islam than is currently practiced in Iran. It's not like she's not Islamic. She's got God in the mix too. She probably refers to him as Allah in actuality, but regardless, she's trying to, as a little girl, put together all these apparently conflicting narratives, and she's creating images of these characters in her head. No, not any particular video, question mark. All total combined. So yeah, what do you think about that, Jeffrey? Any other?
Yeah, that makes more sense as an understanding of this section as a whole. So from here, I'm kind of confused about the top of page 14, and now God is abandoning her, kind of. I'm not quite sure what's going on here in general. First two boxes of page 14.
Oh, well, because she's saying she had said that she wanted to be a preacher, or a, what do they call it in Islam? She wanted to be a doctor. No, a prophet. She wanted to be a prophet, okay? She wanted to be a prophet of God. But what's happened is she's been forced by her circumstances to abandon that notion, because it's like basically life hasn't allowed her to believe positively enough in the world that she can any longer function like that. So in other words, she can't even go and tell people in her neighborhood, I'm going to be a prophet when I grow up, because they'll go blasphemy and kill her. And additionally, she's got these mixed philosophies, right? On the one hand, she's being told the secular imperialists are the devils. On the other hand, she's being told the Islamists are trying to have a coup, but we don't like them because they're too hardcore and we're basically secularists ourselves. And then she's got this alternative thing being thrown at her, which is communist doctrine. And behind it all, she remembers her own promise to God to be a prophet. But as she gets older, she can't see herself. She realized it would take too much courage and too much dedication to even attempt it, because Islam is really, like, you want to talk about triggered. Boy, do they trigger big,
I see, yeah. So basically, she's being indoctrinated by the school system, or who?
By her parents, basically. Her parents are telling her, hey, we're fairly wealthy, secular intellectuals living in Iran under the Shah, where we have a fairly secular society and everything's cool. But the Shah is also representative of a deep psychic scar on our beings, namely the fact that our autonomy as a nation state and as a people has been stolen from us, and we've been rendered into subjects by autocrats time and time again. So, she's got all these different narratives going on, and she's growing up and realizing, I know I promised I was going to be a prophet, God, but I don't think I can actually do that. I think I bit off more than I could chew there when I was a little girl. That's what's going on there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And the next two pages, basically, when God abandons her, and the background is mostly black. The next few pages just representing how there's a turn of events and everything is bleak and people are dying. Is that why the background is mostly black now? Or?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. No, some of them were black before. They alternate between black backgrounds and white backgrounds. The thing about the fire is it's like a Reichstag event, which means what the girl's father told her is that the Shah of Iran had locked a bunch of people into this theater and then lit the theater on fire and locked the doors in there so they all died, and then tried to blame it on the Islamists. Okay. The thing is about that, the girl doesn't believe it. She thinks it's the Shah's forces. I don't know what the actual truth is. I think we're supposed to accept that, in fact, it was the Shah that was responsible for that and not the Islamists. But I don't know. And then, she's battling between the old world that protected her free expression more. So, like, before the upheaval period, there was a more secular society in Iran that was more tolerant of girls like her who had ambitions and who weren't maybe a little unconventional and maybe a little tomboyish and kind of argumentative. And I don't claim to be the best debate coach in America. I've never made that claim. I do claim to be one of the best debate coaches in the country, and I do claim that for a stretch of years, I was arguably the most successful middle school coach in the country. So, and which is no small feat. Don't think middle school debate is anything particularly a lot easier than high school debate. If anything, high school debate is kind of easier than middle school because only serious people engage in it in middle school, whereas you get scrub debaters from high schools with bad coaches in high school. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Okay, go ahead, Jeffrey. Was that fine? Do you get that thing I just said about the thing? Okay. What's next? What is there anything more?
I think that's basically it for these. I think that covers it for the first two chapters. Yeah, the test tomorrow on the direct.
Okay, so yeah, the key thing is note that she's struggling between being a brave soldier who's going to go start the revolution for her parents with the communists and stuff like that, and who's going out there to battle. Look, we have to keep fighting because our cause is going to win. She hasn't come to terms with the fact that they're fighting a losing battle. Her parents are starting to come to terms with the fact they're fighting a losing battle. They're scared. They don't want to put their daughter at risk, certainly by taking her to this thing. And the daughter is faced with a cognitive dissonance of sorts because her parents are admitting that shit's gone south when they say she can't go in some sense because it's no longer a civil society where it's safe for a child to go express her political opinions.
I see. Yeah. And let's see, is there anything from the first chapter? I think it's good about it, right? Oh yeah, her initial opinions about religion. Do you think she's motivated? Why do you think she wanted to become a prophet again? I don't know if it expressed me.
Well, I mean, I think the general point of the whole thing is she was being surrounded by a lot of narratives from her parents and a lot of them were political, but she felt a personal connection, at least with God, regarding the religious narratives. And so she's talking about how that personal connection with God became challenged by the conflicting narratives of the various political vectors in her life. And so much so that she's got to kind of play it cool with God to try to let him down easy that, she doesn't really want to be his prophet anymore. Can we talk about something else? She says, when he asks about, so do you still want to be my prophet? And she goes, can we talk about something else?
Okay, yeah, that's showing how she no longer really wants to be a prophet.
Right. But she's in other words, the purity of her childhood heart that believed in good, triumphing over evil, that believed that as long as she was on God's side, she would be protected and move through the world in this bubble of like righteousness. That innocence is lost as she realizes people are getting killed here in this revolution. This is not people peacefully protesting anymore. This is turning into a civil war. She's too young to really understand that. Her parents are understanding it sooner, and you're seeing her the pain of her losing her moral innocence, her sense that the world was basically just and righteous.
I see. And wait, are her parents religious? So
I mean, everybody's religious in Islamic countries. Everybody's a Muslim. And if you're in an Islamic country, you're either a Muslim or a clearly defined minority that is not Muslim that is acceptable but has to pay extra taxes and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure she's Muslim, and yeah, she was receiving religious indoctrination as with everybody else. It's one of the reasons why the Islamists had an advantage is even the people who oppose the Islamists were still Muslims. They were just the intellectuals, the more secular ones, the more reasonable ones, the moderate ones, right?
yeah, I see. And so why did she say I want to be a doctor early on? Like because her parents disapprove of the religion now, kind of?
No. It's that is just a device that the author is using so that the author can set up the scene where God goes, wait, you don't want to be a prophet anymore? It doesn't matter what she said she wanted to be. That's only there to set up God to be hurt that she doesn't want to be his prophet anymore, and to reveal to us that her relationship with God and her understanding of the world as being fundamentally God's world and one of justice and goodness is changing, and she's losing her innocence.
I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Great.
Yes.
I think that's all. Great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Talk to you later.
You.
See, that's what I call leverage, I guess you say. And I wasn't intending to leverage anything at all, but it's just, it's I don't mind working with it, but I didn't feel like stopping the live stream, so but maybe we can't do it tonight. Oh well, then okay, fine, you can go. It's like.
Oh yes, piano.
Someone wants to know how they can send you food. I mean, free service. Who wants to send me food? Oh, I do want some food. But
Cool.
Are you hungry, Rachel?
I'll take some food.
We should make something to eat, I guess. Pretty damn healthy, email anthrax. Pretty damn healthy. Oh, I get it. Spike Monkey. Well, Spike Monkey, you are on timeout. I don't think they actually have homeless makeover shows. It would be people would find it FE unacceptable for a variety of reasons, and it wouldn't be fun to watch. It would just be, at best, depressing, and at worst, offensive. I guess.
Yes.
I probably shouldn't have timed him out. Well, look. Maybe he's not a Spike Monkey. Oh, for that reason? No. The only reason I haven't banned him is because I'm not sure he's a Spike Monkey. He could genuinely be a new person working a Spike Monkey theme who doesn't yet realize that, and who may, after he pays attention to me for a little while, understand that his contempt is unjustified, but probably not. So, I timed him out instead of give him a chance to determine if he wants to be a real human being interacting with another real human being. That's fine. I'd be happy to interact with him. If he wants to be a Spike Monkey, then, obviously I don't have time for that. I am so thirsty, though. That's what I really am. What do we have to drink? Do we have any beers left?
No, I don't think so.
Do we have 2 Klaus Hollers? We might have two Klaus Hollers. If not, there's a bottle of water. Okay.
It's a bottle of water.
I'll get a bottle of water. Or maybe I'll have a cup of coffee. We need to go to the store.
Yeah.
Where's my coffee cup?
Good question. Can you bring it inside?
Well, this is the kind of shit that makes me want to stomp my foot,
Yeah.
I had coffee all day today, didn't I?
No.
It's right here.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. I drink coffee all day.
I'm sorry. My bad.
It's okay. You could be wrong sometimes. Like that made me that made me a lot of fussy for a little bit of problem, right? That's SI fourth, especially when I maybe get a little sleepy. There's I will answer the question you posted, but it's rather a time consuming activity, and it's also one that I have to not be streaming. I mean I could do one streaming, but it'd be just so boring just watching me type things. Also, I should really get a new keyboard before I even attempt it because my W is so sticky. I haven't really worked on any writing assignments since the W started sticking every time I push it down. And I have interviewed people before, and it's fine. I do okay with that. I'm actually I have a little bit of shyness about it. Like I'm shy about asking people if I can interview them if they want to be on film. Of course, because you got to be very rejection okay. A lot of people are going to say no. I want me to have more views too, question mark. I don't think that actually works though to get me more views. I do ask them before I interview them. I have done this. I do ask first. What I'm saying is I have to go in prepared to get several no's before I find somebody who says yes. About whatever's going on. Like say I'm at a party or something. You want to be interviewed about whatever? I used to go around and interview people about like some of my typical questions were like, what do you think your core values are? What makes you feel excited? What makes you feel dread? Just kind of get to know a person questions. I've got some of those. No, I actually don't, Kyra. I don't think being a reporter would be a fun job. I used to think that.
Oh, I wanted to tell you, speaking of reporter, because you would be a good sports, what do you call it? Men.
Hoop lover?
Talk.
Oh, play by play.
Yeah.
Play by play announcer, yeah.
Jets lost.
The Jets managed to lose that?
Yeah.
Wow, they were up by 10. 0-9.
Oof.
Nice choice, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, right? You know, me and Joe Flacco have the same birthday.
Really?
Yeah, January 16, 1985. Tasty goodness?
Yeah, we pull polls sometimes. We do pull polls.
Oh, you want to do a poll?
Well, what WTF? No, I was responding to somebody here. The thing is, the reason you got timed out is specifically because that's a narrative that usually is associated with spite monkeys. You probably are one, and you're playing dumb at the moment. But I could be wrong. You could actually be a new person who just happened to make a legitimate joke that resemble the behavior of people who come in just to do damage and be spiteful and be hateful. I do have some of them. I'm not quick to pull the trigger on people to get rid of them, but a spite monkey is somebody who comes in here just to say insulting things about me, slander or defame me, or otherwise shit on things, try to prevent me from getting things accomplished. Like, for example, when I was recording a live stream the other day, and I don't think Jeff is a spite monkey. I never say Jeff is a spite monkey. I think WTF probably is, but remains to be seen. I like to give people plenty of benefit of the doubt until they get sick of playing nice, you know? Let them play nice as long as they want. Maybe they have to play nice forever, and you never end up finding out that you're honestly curious and concerned. Okay, so WTF, that's obviously a lie because there's nothing to be concerned about. I'm sitting on a couch in front of a green screen on a YouTube that is live streaming fairly regularly. I've got a fair number of views, and if you listen for even a minute to hear me talk, you'd acknowledge that I don't sound like a homeless person would typically be thought to sound. What happened on my live stream? What you're soaking in it right now. That's what's happened on my live stream. This, among lots of other things. I mean, why don't you share with us a little something about yourself? What are you up to? What brought you to this live stream? So you joined a live stream called Frank Sinatra's stunted EQ. Is that what it's called? FI, stunted FI. Okay. You join a live stream about Frank Sinatra. You come in, and I'm wearing a clean and nice polo shirt, and sitting on a couch in front of a green screen that doesn't have anything on green on it because I'm doing the webcam kind of live streaming rather than the software kind. Nothing about my speech or manner conveys any kind of say I'm in trouble or a period of crisis or like I'm needing something or asking for things. So it seems highly unlikely that you're saying, no, I actually did think you were homeless and hungry, and I felt bad for you for a moment. Okay, well, you might have thought for a moment, oh, this guy's got kind of wild hair and beard, but I mean, pretty unlikely you ignored all the other data and concluded that I was actually homeless and hungry. But maybe you did. If so, let me reassure you, I'm neither homeless nor hungry. Here I am at home on a couch with my girlfriend.
Yeah. Hello. And Kitty.
Does it make it look a little nice and neat now? Does that make you think I'm more homeful? That's the opposite of homeless, is homeful.
I think Kitty's upset with me because she wants to sleep.
Share your knowledge in a way so we can see some genuine reactions. I don't know what you mean by that, question mark. Oh, you're talking to Home Fries? It's okay. If that's actually the case, that's totally fine. I'm not insulted at all. If it's actually the case that, because my hair's so crazy and stuff and I'm so skinny, I am skinny. I've always been skinny. I have a very high metabolism, that you actually thought that, that's totally fine. I'm not offended. Okay? But yeah, let's move on. The thing itself didn't bother me. I may have jumped to a conclusion too soon about who you were. And you're not really that person or persons. That's possible. Okay, so moving on indeed, says Chris Siak. Moving on. Let's talk about moving on. We all in life experience occasions of disappointment, of failure, times when things just don't go our way. And each of us needs to develop a strategy to move on.
You know who PB's upset because she wants to be sleeping in her spot right now.
She's not upset. She's happy on the floor. I think that you are affording to her more like triggeriness than she actually has. She's an ISFP. She's cool. Yeah, she's FI, but she's not that triggery. She's not that
Yeah, she sees something. She's looking at something out there with like those eyes.
who knows what goes on in her little kitty head.
It's true. All I want to do is pet her right now, and I feel like I really shouldn't.
Well, yeah, she does get sick of petting
Yeah,
Pretty-
she's sick of it. That's what I mean.
fairly often. I do talk a lot of typology, but I don't always talk about it. I talk about my pet as having a specific type. It's obviously not something I can really establish, but I've had a cat before that I believed was ENTP, and this cat I believe is ISFP. What does it mean? Not much, but she's if you have a good vision of what the ISFP is all about and ENTP is all about or something like that, this cat seems like an ISFP. We have eaten today, and we went to McDonald's on the way to Vasquez Rocks. That was quite some time ago, though. I could go get some microwave burritos from the garage.
I'm good.
Rachel's not always coughing, only after she pulls bong rips.
Yeah, that's.
It'd be more correct to say Rachel's always pulling bong rips.
Yeah, Rachel's always pulling bong rips is more accurate.
Yeah, okay. I could get a I'd get a couple burritos from the fridge.
Baby. The eyes. It's in the eyes.
Kitty, you need to stop using your FI powers on Rachel. See, Kitty sometimes has to get my attention. If she wants my attention and I'm not really that interested in her, she'll have to stand there meow, meow, meow at me.
Yeah,
She never has to do that to you. You'd be just like, oh, I'm sorry, did I not start petting you fast enough?
Yeah, I wake up and I let her into the bedroom without even knowing in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, pee-pee.
Well, see, Kitty wants to have and likes the ability to change rooms during the night. Like sometimes she wants to sleep in there Rachel and I sometimes sleep in different rooms too. Well, she's like us.
She is like us.
I switch rooms during the night too.
She sleeps sometimes by me, like down by my legs, and I don't even know. And then, she'll sleep underneath sometimes. She sleeps on top. She is like us.
Furious,
I got
you can think about slots in terms, start thinking about slots like this. Extroverted intuition is busy working on building ideas. It builds ideas off of old ideas, and it builds ideas off of new stuff that it sees. Just not ideas, like something you see in the world, right? Now, introverted sensing is doing the opposite. It is archiving the ideas that you've come up with and keeping track of what you've already learned. So the fact is, if you're an NE DOM, what that necessarily means mechanically, relationally, is that your introverted sensing is in service of your extroverted intuition. It's providing things you already know to the extroverted intuition to work off of, but it's not actually organizing what you do at all. Because if you're an SI DOM, then she's 35.
What was the eyeballs for, Nympha?
She's saying she's 35.
Yes.
Spite monkey. So of course our instincts were correct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna time out Spite monkey one more time to let him wait. Spend another 5 minutes here on the stream. Help the old stats while he's seething in his pettiness. The thing is, it's such a terrible critique because, of course, if you're trying to get me to feel bad because of my homelessness, I'm not homeless. And if you're trying to get me to feel bad because I'm robbing the cradle, she's 35 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like CJ O'Connell is correct. WTF, you're trying to get FE stabs in, right? You're trying to like wound me with like, make me feel ashamed or something. You have to it's like if you want me to feel bad about myself, you have to say something about me that's actually like you have to have some ammunition, right?
Yeah, class of 03, Sean O'Neill.
I'm not going to feel bad about, for example, not being able to grow facial hair. Why? Because I have a big beard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to feel bad about being homeless because I have a home. I'm not going to feel bad about robbing the cradle because Rachel's 35 fucking years old.
Mm-hmm. And I've been waiting for a relationship as perfect as this.
Mm-hmm. So, WTF, read them, and wait, motherfucker. I'm sorry you're jealous.
Yeah.
I do have it pretty good. That's true. And it's true. I don't even have to worry about my appearance. You're like, my client wants her kid to work with me so bad that she's willing to do it while I'm live streaming, even though she didn't want to.
Sean O'Neill, I'm with you. K2 Rahu, tell me more.
Curious Karen, 95. As long as I didn't meet her when I was 15. Right. Well, then she would be 0, Chris Siak. And nobody wants to go out with a 0-year-old. Right. Horace Bumworth can successfully make me feel bad. That's true.
But we do have a pretty slabby instance where I was conceived in April and Eric's trip to New York was in April of 84.
Right.
And so I was conceived the day that he arrived in New York.
So to finish answering this question that I got interrupted in answering about the slots, the thing to remember is that their relationship and how you attend via them is defined by the fact that one of them sets the frame. No, it's not a toothpick, it's a cigarette. One of them sets the frame. So I'm an extroverted intuitor means I want to put a bunch of ideas, which means my SI is going to be able to fulfill a limited amount of its possible functionality only. It's either going to be able to keep track of what some ideas that happened before, especially if they get repeated multiple times, so that when you ask me a question about cognitive functions, I'm going to give you an answer that's consistent with all the answers that I've been giving for years now, ever since I got the bugs worked out of my understanding of it. So in that regard, SI is going to be a very active part of my attentional focus because lots of things are asking me to build extroverted intuition off of existing ideas. However, since extroverted intuition is the frame, I'm going to be putting a lot more information than I'm going to be receiving. To receive information means to do, in part, what SI is doing in terms of organizing and archiving the things you make to keep track of what they are. Like I've got a whole Google Docs full of started and unfinished things that I never did anything with. I have lit my cigarette backwards. It is an absolute horrible nightmare if you take a puff off of it. Nothing smokes worse than a fiberglass filter.
See, I knew that she was looking at me.
Oh, kitty freshness.
Oh, kitty freshness indeed. Oh, she's not ready yet.
Well, she likes it up there. You know,
oh, did she want me over with her?
I think you may be doing a little bit of anthropomorphizing here.
I really am.
It's you, dialectic
really
evolution. It's you. You're the smartest.
It's just that I love to pet her. So any excuse will do. She just looks so photogenic. Look at that.
I never smoked a bong. I only washed with him.
You're so photogenic, kitty.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful beauty. Would you guys like to see the beautiful beauty? Here she is. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful beauty.
Oh.
The cat's an ISFP. The girlfriend's an INFJ. No, it's you, dialectic evolution. You know, like you said, it's definitely not me. One thing the dialectic evolution has helped us all to understand is that I'm very dumb. And I'm no good at arguing with anybody. I'm just an old, washed up, old, rusty old guy. I am. So we appreciate you keeping us up to date on that dialectic evolution. Thank you for that, by the way. What's the name?
Capio Strauss is her name, also known as PP or the PNP.
Correct. Capio, for those of you who haven't heard it yet before, means sweetheart in Hawaiian.
Yes, and she truly lives up to that name.
Your mouth just secreted orange dreamsicles? Wow. Now that's a sentence I wasn't anticipating reading today. I like it. I like that sentence.
What's the sentence?
My mouth just secreted orange dreamsicles.
Oh.
Right. I'm an ESFP. And I mean, that's one way we know that you're the smartest, right? Because I've been able to fool a lot of people and think I'm an ENTP. I couldn't fool you, dialectic evolution. You could see right through me. Like, that's what I call genius. You know, all this talking shit of me, it's all smoke and mirrors. I didn't even understand this until dialectic evolution came around. And now I see I'm just an ESFP. I'm a moron. I got everything in typology wrong. I can't debate my way out of a paper bag. My entire life has been a lie. And I got to say, at first I was kind of resentful, but now all I can say is, dialectic evolution, thank you for waking me up. Thank you for opening my eyes. I mean, it hurts, but I don't want to live this lie anymore. I'm a dumb ESFP, and I'm okay with it. I'm just going to, that's me, Rachel. I hope you're okay with it from now on.
Well, I have one for a roommate, so
Yeah.
I'm used to the attention seeking.
WTF agrees. That's good company you got there, dialectic evolution.
Yeah.
WTF is a wise individual who's got incredible insight into me, my homelessness,
No,
all kinds of things.
our cat's name is Capio. Not Cupido. Capio. Kapio.
So as an INTJ, what does your NI tell you, dialectic evolution? Is your obsession with shitting on me jealousy, actual disagreement, or just general displaced rage?
Yeah, question mark. You got it.
You're the genius. You tell us. Capio like that, right? Spell it just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Question mark.
With a K.
Ooh. I'm still getting used to turning back the clocks and everything. Like, my body still thinks it's like 10.
Dreamsicles are a thing that make that sentence better than creamsicles. That's what they are. You know, it doesn't matter if that they exist in the real world. The idea that the sentence included dreamsicles made it better than if it were creamsicles. Because you think, well, these are special. They're like a dream.
Well, she does like to mark her territory. We did walk in here and I smelled her.
Let's get some of that classic NI. I mean, dialectic evolution, you've never given me anything to address that I've not addressed validly. My dismissal of you is evident by my incompetence and inability to actually say stuff. If you genuinely think that I'm incompetent and unable to make good arguments, if you genuinely think that my words don't really mean things, that they are just word salad, as they say, then you're not an INTJ, or you're an INTJ with really terrible NI, because that runs directly afoul of the truth. Anybody who's objectively evaluating my ability to communicate clearly would say that I am saying things that make sense, that I'm not just bullshitting, that these words are directly responsive to what you said, and a good response to what you said. So what do you want from me? You keep coming around here to shit on me, and I asked you a question. I said, why do you think that is? Do you think it's genuine disagreement?
Yeah.
And you said, in response, where's the mouse?
Yeah, right there.
There. And you said in response, well, your address to the things I said is invalid. Your dismissal is evident by your incompetence and ability to actually say stuff. So what do you want from me? So I asked you, why do you think you're shit on me all the time? And your answer was to try to shit on me again. So you're clearly avoiding the question. This saying that the way that I addressed what you said being invalid is not an answer because you're not saying anything. Tell me what it was that I said that was invalid. If you can't articulate the thing that I said and why it was invalid, you have no reason to believe it was, or at least none of us do. My dismissal is evident. I may be dismissive sometimes, but dismissiveness doesn't link to incompetence and inability. A lot of times, very competent and capable people are dismissive because people who are stumbling around moronically like you don't deserve our attention. I'm much less dismissive than most people in my position would be of somebody who's attacked me so many times with so little substance to what they're saying. No arguments have to use the rules of a debate match. Debate is not a rule-based sport. In debate, anything goes. The reason that things become standards or norms in debate is because the best arguments are, the clear argument attains primacy. So, for example, if I were to talk about how a K-shell has to have a violation and an alt and to be impacted in certain ways, you say, well, that sounds like a debate rule. Well, it's not. What it's really saying is, if you're going to say I should lose this argument because I said a racial slur, even though that's irrelevant to the argument, then you're going to need to say, here's the norm that's violated. Normally we don't in polite debate use racial slurs. And you're going to say that you violated that standard when you used a racial slur, and that the impact should be that you should lose this entire argument because since you're not willing to discuss my warrants and claims and impacts without resorting to inflammatory racial slurs, then the issue should be resolved in my favor since you've done nothing but sabotage the discursive process. So does that become a block eventually? Yes, that becomes a block. Is that a rule? No. If I make that argument without a shell, it still might win the round. But if my opponent can say successfully, well, the reason this argument shouldn't win is because he didn't provide a clear explanation about what the norm was that was violated. He didn't provide a clear explanation about how I violated it, or he didn't give a clear explanation about why this means he should win the round, then that's sufficient to defeat the K.
Why is she making you nervous? Question mark. She's chilling like a villain, like so cute and toughed up right now. So cute. My name is spelled RACHEL, and I'm an INFJ.
So here's the thing. I'm curious. What do you guys think WTF is feeling right now? So he's making an attempt to shit on me. It's not working well, but or dialectic evolution. I'm not playing an intellectual chess match. I'm not trying to have conflict with you. Okay?
Why are you using an Oxford comma?
Again, dialectic evolution. You make a claim without providing any example of it. Why should we agree with you? You say that my way of arguing seems completely ignorant of what we use to argue effectively, persuasion and persistence. But this seems pretty persuasive to me, and I am persisting in responding to what you say. I'm actually responding to what you say. You didn't respond to what I said. I asked you a question. I asked you, why is it you think you are compelled to shit on me all the time? To come in here to try to shit on me, to take me down a notch. What is it that offends you so much about my approach? It's very straightforward. It's very honest. It makes perfectly good sense. You don't have to have a high intelligence to understand it. I'm not trying to win by verbosity. You said yourself, I'm not smart. Right? So what I'm saying is, if you really want to make the claim that I'm just playing an intellectual chess match and that my way of arguing seems completely ignorant of what we use to argue effectively, then give me an example of what's an effective argument that contrasts against an argument of mine so we can understand what you mean. Except you don't mean anything. You mean, here I'm spreading my cheeks again to try to shit on you. And I'm ignoring the fact that you asked me a question and I won't answer it. And I won't take into account the fact that maybe Eric has a point here that, I wonder why I am here all the time, trying to convince Eric there's something wrong with him, that he's not that good. I gotta take him down a notch. I mean, okay, take me down a notch, fine. I'm taking down. Now, does that make you feel better? Why are you? I'm curious. Like, why are you doing that? What are you thinking?
He lacks social grace, that's for sure.
He could be a 16-year-old. That's true. He could be a teenager. Probably is.
No, I'm thinking after PoLR.
I do need to eat something. I need burritos. So I guess I will go to the garage and get them.
Okay. I'll probably have like one. I don't know. I don't know what he said he was. What the WTF? You don't understand how, like, socially graceless you are. Like,
I mean, the other weird thing about that kid's point is that
what?
he's basically saying, well, Eric, the problem is you're not being persuasive enough, which seems to suggest that he thinks I'm right and I'm making all the good logical arguments, but I'm not effing it enough. That's a weird position, I do get irritated when I'm hungry. It's true.
Yeah, it is. It is true. I really like the usage of the Oxford comma, just to like make it like, I am so inferior. Inferior. I don't know what I'm saying at this point. I'm so tired.
Okay, well, Adrian B, I don't feel like I'm falling for bait. This is something that I have an argument with people a lot about. When somebody comes in and attempts to make claims about the legitimacy of not anything specific that I'm saying, but about me as a thinker, it's an opportunity for me to talk about how this is what stupidity looks like. I don't care what your IQ is. It could be 1 million or it could be 1. If you want to come in here and tell me I'm wrong in general without saying, Eric, you're wrong about this ever, then you are an idiot. You can't prove I'm wrong in general without ever establishing a single instance of me being wrong in the specific. And if you do that over and over again, and I explain it to you, and you keep doing it over and over again, and thinking you're accomplishing something, then you are an idiot. That's it.
Well, like, a lot of people feel like they don't have to be socially graceful over the internet, but, like, he reeked of INTJ. Like, he just...
What's up, Sean?
I don't know. I don't know his age. I went out with a young one. He sounds young. He sounds like around my age.
Okay.
He literally like sounds like someone
I don't think
know.
it's one of my mods
Like,
at all. I don't
dated
have any
and,
mods
like,
that have access to that except
Wouldn't
for
be surprised.
Octavia Silva. I think it's
I don't think it's
probably
him, but
YouTube had decided you're somehow a questionable chatter and has sort of shadow banned you or something.
Chris,
I will go unban. I will go
it's not
unban.
that you don't like
know, but
making
you
people
were here
uncomfortable.
briefly.
It's that you don't understand what you're saying makes other people uncomfortable. Yes, I'm INFJ and I've gone out with an INTJ who one time.
So did you see at any
Hey,
point
Zandy.
somebody said like, you've been hidden?
Who one time someone said he was looked homeless, and I was like,
Okay.
That's fucking offensive. And he was just like, oh, no big deal, because he was polar. He doesn't understand.
I'll go
That's
to the thing
not
and fix it.
like he doesn't understand the rudeness of that. And it was rude too because he knew that I had been like kicked out of my house plenty of times and was like really close to homelessness. Like, and I was like, you think that's fine to say? Like, you're fucking not socially aware, and that's effing polar.
Okay, so what was I gonna do? Oh yeah, fix that thing for Sean. So I gotta go to this, and then I gotta go to where again? Settings? Oh, community. I don't think you are. I don't see you anywhere, Sean. Yeah, you're not on the list of people who's banned, hidden. So I don't know what to tell you. There you are. No, you're fine. I see you.
No, you're there.
O'Neill.
Yeah, you're there.
You're there. And what slot is my SI? My SI is in the. Yeah, I can see you. I can see you now. So my slot is in the 4th slot, and it's, well, it's like what I said before, which is it manifests kind of as always being slightly afraid that you've forgotten about something important.
What if INTJs are right and we're all a little bit too sensitive? I think if you come into a community of people where the host has already told you, like, hey, people come on here and they start arguing with me, like, I'm not really looking for that. And then you proceed to act like a socially graceless asshole, you're going to get called out.
I mean, the thing is, INTJs are actually much more sensitive than the people they think are sensitive. Being too sensitive.
They just lack it.
INTJs are oblivious to certain kinds of FE things.
Yeah.
So they see other people who are not oblivious to that as being sensitive. But in fact, thanks, Winston's mom. We'll just go ahead and ban him next time he pops back up. So
I'm just saying, you guys say like shit like, oh, your best friend is hot, not thinking that, oh, that's socially graceless. when you're in a relationship with someone else, like, that's FE polar. I'm just telling you from experience. I've been with multiple INTJs. You guys don't have the FE. I'm sorry. You say asshole shit, and people think you're dicks because sometimes you don't have the social graces. And
But I also want to stress this, that I have encountered INTJ lack of FE shit that's blunt and whatever. That's not what's going on with somebody like Dialectic Evolution or WTF.
No.
They are not lacking FE in the sense that they're unaware in some regard that that they're going to be offensive. They are. It's road rage. Yeah, it's road rage kind of shit, right? It's like a persistent, chronic road rage.
All right, I was talking about INTJs. And yeah, it is one type out of 16 out of 8 billion people. But there are, if you are an INTJ, you are socially graceless. It's just true.
And the thing is this. Remember that INTJ lack of grace can combine with a fundamental decency or with a fundamental malignance. Some INTJs get increasingly unhappy as their demand for third slot FI gratification is denied by a world that rewards much faster people. Like, in other words, INTJs need time to let their understanding, their knowledge realize. They need time to decide how they're going to approach, like, work hitting on this chick or something. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have trouble with it because they're awkward.
Right. And, that's where their death stare comes in. That's stereotypical INT death stare. I swear to literal God that an INTJ I stared at me and I was like, what the hell is going on? And my friend ENFJ had to be like, oh, he's into you.
Well, Christia, you are right that that Rachel is right now expressing some of her indignation from the past at people who have not treated her well, and she's probably being a little bit overgeneralizing about that. But and that's a fair enough thing to say. But remember, we all sometimes get a little expressive in our indignation. And sometimes our indignation is very well justified. Rachel's former partner, who was an INTJ, was also BPD.
He was a fucking dickhole. But also, I went out with one in high school as well. And I'm telling you, I know ISTJs are socially graceless also. I bumped into my ISTJ neighbor. And I was like, oh, nice, familiar face, hey, hello. No, not hey, hello. We had a 45-minute conversation about how he believes that his phone is tapped and that the things that he says to his brother on the phone are being listened to by, the people on the phone. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And it just went on and on and on.
Was he right?
Yeah, he was probably right.
Who was he tapping his phone?
It wasn't tapping. It was like, you know how Google suggests stuff that you say out loud.
Oh, so he was saying that like some sort of algorithm was listening in on his phone, and it was generating ad things. There's been a number of occasions where weird coincidences make me kind of wonder about that sort of thing too.
Yeah.
But by and large, I don't really think that. Exactly. Also, it's like I don't expect. I don't like the idea that there are things that are okay for me to say, that are okay for me to talk about, that I'm keeping private because I don't want to incur disagreement from people. When I believe my behavior is perfectly fine, like smoking weed or something, I have very much difficulty hiding it because it requires that I actually I actually have some wrongdoing that I experience for me to feel guilty about it. And I'm not going to hide shit I don't feel guilty about, right?
Yeah, I don't feel guilty about talking about PoLR.
I think you can call like WTF to answer your question. Nympha, you can call it WTF and dialectic evolution. They're the pollution of my car, basically. Unavoidably, when you are making some strong claims, talking about something about which there's not broad agreement, and about, yeah, go ahead and pull a trigger on him next time he says something. But and especially if you're confident, comfortable with yourself, and correct, and not afraid to say it, not spending a whole hell of a lot of time. Yeah, there's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you
That's
start
true.
to like buck up and like isolate people. It's just true. I hate being right about this shit, but I have experienced it. Like, you latch on to people because you really like them and you want that. They have what you lack, and they have no substance at all, and they leave you. And then you leave people who have feelings for you because you don't understand them. That's just the truth.
Okay, but it is also the case that we are all susceptible to generalizing negative stuff from our own experience. So,
I haven't had very
I do not doubt that there's an ESFP or two out in the world that I could work with comfortably and be friends with and think, that's a great person. I've been talking some shit about ESFPs and I was wrong. I've gone through that about a number of types, really. When I first started,
I talk shit about all the types.
When I first started doing cognitive functions, I talked a lot of shit about ESTPs. And it turned out my own daughter was one. I made a video one time where I said, I'm not saying that ESTPs shouldn't breathe. I'm just saying, couldn't we really find a better use for that air? Something like that.
Yeah,
but
I don't mean to. It's just like the guy mentioned he reeked of someone who's my age who was trying to be cool.
That guy triggered Rachel.
Yeah, he really did. He felt like someone I know. Like, he feels like my age, which is like 35 and probably a little younger. Maybe in his 20s.
I'm saying Legends Fall that I've learned over the course of being on the channel that first of all, it's important to respect the power of words, so that if I'm going to make a video that says ESFPs are so dumb, I'm putting that on people's ontology.
Yeah, I do feel bad. Look, I just.
Yeah, she was triggered by this guy, and
he was like.
She doesn't want any INTJs to feel as though they're somehow inadequate people because of what she's been saying. She's talking really about this guy and her previous people and some shortcomings that have particularly caused her either harm or discomfort in the past.
It's just like, be careful. Like, be careful. You really have to be careful with what you say, because like a comment about someone's facial features or like.
NI is not willpower, Tom Jefferson. No person who understands anything about cognitive functions thinks NI is willpower.
I wish I had willpower.
Introverted intuition is the
Sorry, I really didn't mean to get it.
I'm not, Rachel. I'm trying to think about this NI question, about how to put this in the most concise NI way. NI understands the self by understanding the sets that the self is a member of.
Yeah.
SI understands the sets by understanding which sets the self is a member of. Okay? So in other words, SI people understand the universal from the specific particular. NI people understand the particular from the universal. A good example of this is Rachel might look to, say, astrology or tarot for information about our relationship,
Yeah.
even though the most meaningfully relevant data about a relationship is her actual experience with me. But that her personal experience, memories, kind of thing, that kind of knowing is not a kind of knowing that she defaults to at all. She defaults to the universal kind of knowing. So when she wants to know something about her own personal experience, she looks to externalities like astrology and tarot cards.
See, that's the fundamental craziness of an INFJ. We're far from perfect. Far.
Princess Mom says, NI may not be perseverance, but I've learned that if any trait is applicable to me, it's the ability to endure, to persevere in my vision. So this is maximally so of INTJs, more so than INFJs, because INTJs have NITE. They're NI about an ordinal thing, a set of steps, a recipe. And so as a consequence, if their clarity about their course of action is large enough in scope, then they have to be quite persistent in sticking on that course. The thing is, this isn't the kind of thing that would require INTJ persistence because there's no goal here, right? It's not like WTF or dialectic evolution have a meaningful goal that they can hope to accomplish. Their goal is to make me feel bad, I guess. But
it doesn't.
They're not going to accomplish that with that nonsense.
No.
They may provoke me to talk about them and do what I'm doing now, but that never works in their favor. So in other words, when they try to make me look bad, I just see it as an opportunity to explain how that form of trying to make me look bad won't work because of these good things about myself. It's like they're setting me up to brag about myself without incurring any FE consequences.
It's not TE. Totally not TE.
No, it's not TE. No. Listen. That is looking to archetypal or symbolic universals for information about the specific. That is not TE. If you think it is TE, you probably are an INFJ because you have no fucking concept what TE is. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What type do you think is the equalizer? What do you mean by that?
What?
What type do you think is the equalizer? Equalize what with what?
Yeah.
Like what type makes things most equal? What type most cares about equality? Oh, it's a character in a movie. Oh, okay. No, I've never seen that. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Also, I have a habit of dragging people, types, and then I'll never talk bad about them again. Like seriously, I just need to get it out because it just bothers me.
Okay, LII last. Well, that comment there, no, it doesn't mean they're INFJ. A lot of people in the MBTI community think of TE in the simple way that being looking for information outside of yourself. Well, that just shows you're a TI Dom. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What did I do?
You didn't do anything. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
I've worn many hats in my day. I'm inherently a very nice person in my nature, but I have been a product of a family that created a people pleaser. SI users wanting useful. I agree you're inherently a very nice person. And that's probably why your hair is so flat. You should only wear one hat. If you wear too many hats, that's a lot of weight on your scalp and it will flatten down your hair. Words of warning to all the women out there.
You get that hat hair. Hat head or whatever. Oh, could we roll a joint?
Sure.
Thank you. I have the best.
Oh, we don't need to roll a joint.
Oh, we already have one.
We got one of these Primo joints.
Oh, it's a Primo?
Yeah, this supposedly is because this is the joint you get for when you complete your punch card. It's not just a throw in a random free joint.
Let's
So
do it.
go ahead and smoke this.
Thanks.
And I might take a chew off of it as well, but I'm gonna eat part of this burrito first.
Yeah.
Well, words of warning: never hide a Green Beret's beret. They don't think it's funny.
Oh.
You know what would be funny? If we replace all the Green Berets with a different color beret.
Thanks, Andy.
Bad idea.
I really. It's just everyone. I praise as much as I do drag. It's just I'm a fighter by nature.
Jandy, I appreciate you stepping in and doing it. I noticed Rachel feeling uncomfortable and kind of beating herself up, but I'm easily distracted, so I couldn't really.
I'm over it.
You still don't know your type, Ramesh? Well, you better hurry up. You only got till Tuesday.
Ramesh, do you study Vedic astrology?
If you don't determine your type by Tuesday, Ramesh, you will be denied ever the opportunity to have a type. You'll be typeless for the rest of your life.
What type was I lambasting? INTJ and ISTJ.
She was doing the equivalent of me talking shit about ENFPs and ENTPs, right?
Yeah.
Talking shit about the people who have your tool function as their PoLR.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, is Cameron socially graceless? No, Cameron's very comfortable to be around.
Yes, and when he's comfortable, he talks a lot.
But yeah, he's not very socially aware. He's not socially aware, right? So he's got a couple of heuristics that he uses to keep himself safe of certain kinds of FP mistakes. Like he doesn't overstay his welcome.
No,
I don't have to give him. I don't have to hit him over the head with "go away." I can just say, "Okay, well, I'm getting sleepy now" or something. That's fine.
and that's it.
But yeah, Rachel's right. He can talk quite a bit without really. He shares a lot of his experiences with Rachel, which is a lot of SI for her to listen to.
Well,
Rachel's being very polite and listening to it.
And it is nice because he's like a nice person.
He's great. I mean, it's not really fair to say he's being very polite. I enjoy listening to Cameron talk.
I do too.
I think both Rachel and I do. I think
I
that,
do. I really
don't think either of us have really ever felt like we've gotten sick of Cameron because partially because we don't see him all that often, So every time he comes around, we're hungry for Cameron.
Yeah, and I want to say about INTJs, they're like so classy of people. Like, yeah, whatever.
Hambone got a girlfriend. That's my guess. He said guess. I don't know.
Oh! I knew it. I had a feeling it was gonna happen. I had a feeling, but I'm glad you're back, Hambone. It's good to see you. What happened?
See, here's the thing. When I went to Hambone's butcher shop and I asked him I ordered a ribeye, and he came back and he gave me a chicken head in a wrapped up butcher paper bag, and he's like, "Oh, is that not a steak?" I thought, what? Maybe you shouldn't be a butcher. You don't seem to know much about meats.
He's right, though. It is a good time for us to go to Vegas. Is it open?
Yeah, it's open.
Oh, cool.
Do you think the Steve MRE guy is ISTJ? That was my guess. Yeah, that's my guess. I think he probably
That's
is.
what she said. Let's go CBG.
A very expensive piece of equipment fell off the back of the truck because he didn't strap it right.
Oh. I'm so sorry.
Jesus Lord said, Eric, would you fight me in person? I bet I could kick your ass. I bet you could too. No, I will not fight you with my fists. I'll not fight you with any sort of violences. If in fact a situation comes down where there's non-lethal violence occurring, I probably won't even fight back. I think it'd be a wiser choice to the alternative of attempting to fight back and then making it a mutual combat thing. I'd rather it just be cut and dry case where I was assaulted, you know? Yeah, Hambone. Well, they should have known not to give you those SE jobs. INTPs have no business strapping things onto trucks and driving around.
I'm not joking. Think about being a weatherman. You're charming.
Who's gonna be a weatherman?
Hambone.
Right? Yeah, that's a good job for you, Hambone. Weatherman makes.
I'm serious.
That does actually make a lot of sense. I mean, thanks, Hambone. Sorry you got fired.
I'm so sorry too. I'm so sorry. I wanted to advise you against taking the job. And
you already had it, I think.
I know. I wanted to advise you in some way, but you had to go through it.
All right. Here's the thing, Hambone. What I want you to do is to go work at a competing butcher shop.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. You got experience in the butcher shop industry after all.
Yeah. We were talking about yeah, I'm sure he would have a stroke. We were talking about the trail mix the other day and how much we liked it. Yeah.
What were we saying? We were going to shape it into something? Or?
Yeah, we did.
Do you remember what we were talking? What these context was? We can't even remember anything. Oh, you didn't get fired from the butcher shop as a new job? You already got fired from the butcher shop?
Can you go back to the butcher job? Can you work for your dad again?
Or maybe.
I'm so sorry.
Maybe
that
you
really
could try.
Sucks.
You could try opening your own.
Oh, you quit the shop for that job? I'm so sorry.
Was your dad mad when you quit the shop, or was he supportive of it? What did you like about this job better? Why don't you come into autonomy and talk to us with your voice, Hambone? You want to come to talk with us with your voice?
I won't talk much.
I don't think Hambone was worried that you were going to talk too much. I'm quite certain that Hambone didn't think, I would, but I'm worried Rachel's going to talk too much.
Look at Katie's coat. How much does it look like my coffee?
Ramesh, what type do I think you are? I think you are the type that wants to get a free typing.
Ooh.
Can I make your name blue? I don't really like having moderators. Moderators accidentally ban people. I mean, I like the moderators I have. I don't really want to add any more moderators. If I add you, then I get every time I add somebody, it turns into a fucking big deal around here. I remember one time I added somebody and it caused such an uproar that then I took the wrench away from her, and then that caused a double uproar. I was just like, okay, these wrenches are fucking.
Yeah.
I hate them.
I remember that.
The lady at Taco Bell tried arguing with me, and she wouldn't take my order back, so I threw it back in the window. Hangry.
See, we all got our moments. Thanks, Adrian B. I feel you. I hate Aunt Wakefield's.
Well, that's true, Ramesh, but I mean, the literal reality of it is, even if you were here talking a lot for a long time, most of the people who are here, and I've heard from plenty of times and talked to in just the chat plenty of times, I have no idea what type they are. I don't even have an opinion about it. Some of them I know. I know Running Fox is INFJ. I know Curious Kyra is INFP. I've got my opinion about Ethan McDonald. I don't know if he agrees with it or not, but then, other people who are around here a lot, I don't have any concepts about. Like, I think Adrienne B said in the past she's INFJ, if I remember correctly, but I don't really keep track of that shit. I have no idea what an NYMPH is. And when I have typed people from the chat in the past and then actually typed them in person, I typically have been wrong. Now, somebody like Cloud here, aka Jesus is Lord, he's easily understood as ESFP because only ESFPs say those kind of sentences. Oops.
I know why. It's because I'm.
Who's Meme Guy? I want to know who Meme Guy is.
Who's Jack?
Okay, well, shot in the dark. I got nipples, Jack. Can you milk me? Jack's it's like Bud or Guy.
Oh.
It's like a generic name, I think. Blues can't ban blues.
Like Hit the Road Jack.
You can wrench all the regulars, and then it would only be noobs who'd get accidental bonks with the band hammer. Accidental bonks with the band hammer. Adrienne B's looking to get milked. Her teats are uncomfortable because they're so overflowing with milk. What's weird is that I started typing close friends and they all tested INFPs, but I say all, I mean 3. I went searching for a channel, I hit Google search on his profile pic, and Meme Guy came up. So the word troll noobs, but that doesn't mean he does. Well, if somebody is trying to troll noobs, then they have a poor choice of hunting grounds because I'm not a noob by any definition of the term. I'm not a Indeed. Yes, there was a wrench revolution. There was a wrench revolution. I'm not a noob because I've been here for a long time now. I mean, I guess I've officially been a part of YouTube since.
Kitty.
No, oh, did you? Oh,
I did. I'm so sorry, Kitty. No, I'm so sorry. I had a bell ringer. I'm so sorry.
What did Legends Fall say? I'm not used to him getting timed out. Is that an accident?
Oh, Kitty, I'm so sorry.
Okay, was that just a joke? I think that's a Winston's mom joke. Legends Fall said, "How do you know if you've been put on timeout?" And Winston's mom just timed him out. So I think I don't think that was an accident. I think she just thought that would be funny. It is kind of funny. It's sort of like the INTJ joke of Glenn Gould, who thought it'd be hilarious to make a video in which a man is sitting on the beach. It's just so off-putting being ignored and not in tune with the interactive experience. You're not ignored or not in tune with the interactive experience. Having a wrench won't change your experience at all.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah, it's not the case at all.
It's actually Not on purpose that all these people have the wrench.
I get your frustration at being invisible for a stretch, but it was funny. No, I'm not disputing that. I watched that video and I watched the whole thing, even though it's like 5 minutes long and nothing really happens. I didn't really think it was funny, actually, to be honest, but I did think it was interesting and worth watching in a weird sort of, in a weird way of like watching artists back in the day before there was information fluidity. It does change. I became less vulgar. It does change it. What changes what? You became less vulgar. Were you? I don't really picture you ever being vulgar, Hambone. Can you imagine Hambone being described by the word vulgar?
No.
So okay, I've said before I want the INTPs to answer this. I describe the fundamental. I generalize out and say the fundamental ENTP fear or experience is constantly being afraid that you're forgetting about something important, be it you're not caring about something you should care about and we'll discover later you care about a lot, or you're forgetting about an appointment, or meow, 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 meow. So what's the INTP version of there's always an ongoing slight fear that I'm forgetting about something important? What's the INTP version of that? See, well, maybe Horse Mumbler will have a...
Hambone, you definitely should not be. Explain later, please.
Yeah, don't type in your phone while driving.
I got pulled over for that.
That's gonna make you crash another car, and you probably didn't strap shit onto it properly. So just yeah, or LI laugh. Yeah. Rachel indicated that her version of that is feeling fear of being purposeless or useless or not serving any meaningful end, I guess.
Yep.
This is your burrito.
Oh, thank you.
What type is Agent 47? I don't know what that is.
Was one enough for you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Now I'm cursing at lampposts. I believe giving people the benefit of the doubt is better than just locking them up in chains and telling them their lives are worthless. I want to let people have a chance to be their true selves. Well, I don't think anybody's advocating in favor of locking people in chains like that. Are they?
Who? Who wants to lock who?
Well,
chains?
Jesus' Lord said,
Oh.
I believe giving people the benefit of the doubt is better than just locking them up in chains and telling them their lives are worthless. I want to let people have a chance to be their true selves. I think really anybody's advocating in favor of locking people in chains and telling them their lives are worthless.
Shit happens, you know? Like,
you think you worry about being unsuccessful as an INTP? So one answer we got is fear of being unsuccessful. But that's not really explanatory. You got to give me more about what you think successful means, because that could be, you could think, yeah, successful, or yeah, successful, or yeah, successful. I think Google was an INTP. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I said I thought he was an INTJ. If he wasn't, he was certainly an INTP. There was one of those two for sure. I wasn't sure, but some of his language seems like INTP language. But it's kind of like we all fall victim to the misleading correlate or the self-reporting. So some people who critiqued my calling Ben Shapiro ENTP, and by the way, despite my strong certainty talk about it, him being ENTP, and that in that Type Please video. I don't know if he's an ENTP or not. He could be ESTJ or something, possibly. But people said, like, well, Eric, why would you say he's an ENTP? He answered this question with yeah, and he answered this question. He says he's very good about following through on a plan. Well, I mean, it's like, because self-reporting questions are an incredibly dumb way to type somebody. So
really
Ben
simple.
Shapiro could say, yeah, I'm really good at following through on a plan, compared to maybe how he was when he was a kid. He's gotten good at it. It could be that. If you ask, he's also very successful. An ENTP, like, for example, when I was kicking ass with autonomy debate and before that kudos, and I learned about Enneagram, I thought I was a 783 because after all, I was quite accomplished and successful by my own understanding. Now, I'm not anywhere as successful as Ben Shapiro because the pond I was being successful in is a lot smaller, right? But nevertheless, I concluded I was 783. If you would have asked me questions about achievement and stuff, I would likely have given answers that would have misled you into thinking that I was, in fact, a 3. Because being FI PoLR means subjective things are things that we think you get to decide and set the status of. Like, oh, that's just an emotion. That's one of those things I can decide how I'll feel and set the status of it because it's subjective. So there's not really any truth or falsehood to it. Now, of course, that's the initial thing. As you get older, you understand things better, and especially if you got cognitive functions in your intellectual toolbox, you can really get more clarity when you're self-reporting and be able to self-report more accurately. People without any knowledge of cognitive functions are going to have a difficult time self-reporting accurately because cognitive functions not only affords you the tools to differentiate between the ways in which you're being, attending, cognating, or whatever, but additionally, it's I got distracted by Jesus Lord's thing here. Eric, you seem quick for your age. Have you tried using your neuroplasticity to fix your personality? No, I direct all my neuroplasticity towards other more useful things. I don't believe my personality is broken. So I tend to, I am very, I know that my intellectual peak is older than most people's in the sense that ENTPs grow up more slowly. I'll probably be at my mental peak up through about 70, 72 or something maybe. I'm probably nearing it right now. I think that your poorly couched insult was strange. Like, fix my personality? Well, what's wrong with it?
That's my question.
I mean, I will agree that it tends to incite weird attacks from people. Like, have you tried using your neuroplasticity to fix your personality? Something about me does seem to incite angry, jealous, resentment kind of things. But that's not anything wrong with my personality. That's just the reality that, when people don't feel adequate, they lash out at others. Just remember, when you're not feeling adequate next time Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is Lord, okay?
Yeah.
Just remember that. Jesus is Lord, and you're A-okay in his book. There's nothing wrong with you, except your incredibly wrong position about me. Oh, no. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. Roger that.
You roll better joints, by the way. Just gonna say.
Eric, you are just a very silly man. Don't pretend it's not because you like to play as if you've got everything fixed. Do I? I mean, I spent plenty of time going, God, I'm frustrated with myself and talking about why. I spend plenty of time saying, yeah, this is kind of a heavy responsibility and undertaking I'm approaching here. And I'm sort of preparing for it emotionally. And you hear me say that kind of shit all the time. I don't pretend like I understand everything, have everything all down perfect. But one thing I will tell you is I'm not driven by fear. I'm just not. You bring up your own accomplishments ever since Biden got elected. I don't think I've been bringing up my accomplishments since Biden got elected at all. I mean, I didn't even know Biden got elected. I haven't been operating under the assumption the election's over. It's still in the courts as far as I'm concerned. Am I upset that I didn't get elected? I wasn't running. How could I get elected? So
why are they saying that he is elected?
I mean, it's more like they're trying to say, what's the call on the field? We still have to go to the review. But whether or not the call on the field is going to be overturned and that's going to cause it to become a touchdown, or whether or not it's going to be overturned and that's going to cause it to become not a touchdown, well, that's determined by who they say is the sort of default winner going into the court battles. How you approach the court question of this is going to be determined by who's officially the winner, and then the courts are going to be a place where you can try to get them to say, no, that's not acceptable the way that happened, so they're not officially the winner because we're going to change these or those votes to meow or whatever, right? So yeah, it's in the courts. Who knows? I don't get stressed out about it. Good night. Curious Kyra.
So how dare they report that?
I mean, look. The thing is, this whole team thing has infested the entire culture, such that reporters, they aren't executing some agenda centrally dictated to them. That's authentic. They are identifying with the team, and they're trying to position their team shit as though it were disinterested or not representative of either side. But it's becoming increasingly impossible for anybody to do that because there hasn't been presented any third approach that's meaningful. Every third approach is just another version of the same thing that's presented. Like, well, instead, let's try libertarianism instead. Let's try this dogma instead. Let's try this dogma instead. Let's try this agenda instead. Let's not try any fucking agendas, Let's get rid of the agenda shit. Let's get rid of the team shit. Cloud, just shut the fuck up. If you're not Cloud, then you definitely are actually an ESFP, and wow, ESFPs are similar to each other, because your kind of stupidity is the same exact kind of stupidity the Cloud shit throws at her. It's just random stupid nonsense that bounces all over the place. So CBJG, I used to think that as well. I used to think, look, I hate leadership. I was the director of Kudos College of Youth Leadership, and I thought the problem is this whole leadership notion that there are some people who want to abdicate their responsibility for making decisions about what's the right and wrong thing to do to some third party they call a leader. That's the problem. Well, no. Cognitive functions open my eyes about that as well. There are plenty of types who want to receive direction, leadership, whatever. To a certain extent, including me. Like I say in a song that I made, I want direction, and I have all along. Like I would like to say, I would like to have somebody help me be directed. And I've also been a leader enough in real senses with a sports team. A debate team is like a sports team because it's zero sum. You know, for you to win, other people have to lose. And leadership's important. It's like Pete Carroll says. You have to bring the energy all the time. You define the energy of the team. You define the attitude of the team. You define all those things. And the reason good teams win and bad teams lose has a lot to do with the coach.
Yeah.
Like you take Nick Saban at any program, give him a few years, they'll be right near the top again. And not just because of his great reputation, which, you know, it's like when you're in coaching and you win a lot, if there's a recruiting element, that starts to snowball and become an insurpassable advantage, because Nick Saban could go to the shittiest little college in the world, in the country, and recruit blue chip players just because he's Nick Saban. But even if he couldn't do that, he'd be able to build up another program again because he's fundamentally a good coach. And just like athletes, there are a few people in the world who are irreplaceable, quote unquote. If you're at a job and you think you're irreplaceable, you are wrong. Everybody's replaceable at this site, except coaches and freakishly talented athletes. You can't replace LeBron James with two players who are half as expensive as him. It doesn't work. You can't replace Nick Saban with another coach who costs as much and expect to get the same results.
It's the truth.
And there just aren't that many coaches who can consistently take teams of various quality levels when they get them and consistently make them better over time and consistently turn them into winners within a fairly short period of time. There aren't many coaches who can do that. There are some. I'm one such coach. What I mean by this is precisely last year, for example, was the first year I worked with Jeffrey, I believe. And maybe it was the year before. But anyway, when he first worked with me, he was debating with his school and had a partner debating public forum and had yet to win a round. Went 0-5 in one tournament and 0-6 in another tournament or something like that. And I think within 3 tournaments of me starting to work with him, he had trophied or won a tournament or something like that. I don't want to learn chess. Oh, Jesus is Lord. You are really all over the place today because you've mistaken me for God. That shouldn't be so. I look totally different than God. God has better teeth than me, for one thing. God's not partially bald. You know? There's a big difference between a coach and a career politician. The thing to remember is, in this citizen democracy, we have settled for politicians for too long. It is time for a real citizen statesman to stand up and say, I am the voice of the actual populace, a diverse group of people with a lot of different perspectives. And we as a group are tired of our passions and our genuine patriotism being exploited to divide us.
Yes.
And that's what's happening. It's not like Republicans are wrong and Democrats are right or vice versa. The right and the left are both equally passionate, and they're passionate for good reasons. They're patriots and they want the best for our country. They think that the opposing side are anti-patriotic, that they want bad things. The problem is both sides are doing the same thing. They're prioritizing which side they're on over the country in every instance because they're so convinced that their side best represents what's good for the country. I was talking with Rachel in the car today as we went to the northern corner of LA County, and it's in Canyon Country, which is a nice part. We went to Vasquez Rocks, and unlike the places in the more urban part of LA County, there was no graffiti at Vasquez Rocks. There were no There was no litter. There was no people painted gang shit on the rocks. It was beautiful, pristine.
It was.
There are no homeless people over there. The thing is, in the middle of LA, it is, look, Horseman, I'm calling it a citizen democracy, okay? Because nobody uses the word democracy anymore to mean a literal Athenian democracy. And so while you may be correct, I'm going to persist in using the word democracy and saying America is a citizen democracy because that's more resonant with people than a citizen republic. A republic makes me sound like a libertarian. It's an FE thing. Okay, legends fall. Here's the thing. Note what you could do with your advocacy here. You could say, this particular policy that's being advocated currently is a terrible idea for specific reasons. And it could so happen that it's a policy by and large supported by people who self-identify as being on the left. But if you don't make their policy, the actual policy, the problem, but rather their attitude towards policy, their if you're trying to reduce them to basically wicked authoritarians, then we're not going to be able to work together with them. And if they want to reduce you to wicked conservatives who don't care about equity, prioritize their property considerations over equity all the time, then we're going to have a hard time working with you. So what we need to do is stop worrying about who's wrong and to blame for meow, 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 and instead focus on which policy should we get rid of, which policy should we embrace, and why. It's just like Black Lives Matter. You cannot successfully attain any policy outcome when it comes to police corruption and police the overuse of force or whatever you want to call it if you frame it wrong in the first place. So because it's framed now as a problem of racism, okay, well, Horseman, then what am I incorrect about? The only thing you can say I was incorrect about is my claim that nobody uses that word like that anymore. So maybe some people do use the word like that nowadays. Maybe people in Switzerland use the word like that because since they have a literal democracy, a citizen democracy, I guess everybody has to be involved in every single decision that gets made, or it seems horribly inefficient. But regardless, the only thing you could say that I said that was incorrect would be that nobody uses the word like that anymore, which was too broad of a statement. Almost nobody uses the word like that anymore in America. The rest of the stuff I said was all presentational stuff. So you can't say I'm incorrect about any of that. If you were to say that I was incorrect about it, you would have given a different warrant, such as, actually, that doesn't play like, it doesn't play more egalitarian, it plays less egalitarian, or something like that, you know? I don't think Horse Mumbler's confusing those things, Chris Siak. I think we're all missing the boat when we're focused on which of those words we want to use to describe our government. The fact is, our government is a representative government that has representatives who represent constituencies. Whatever the fuck you want to call that, go ahead and call it. I'm calling it, as the name of my platform, a citizen democracy. And if you don't like that name, I respect that you may be technically correct or not or whatever, but that's the name I'm going with. Well, the representatives represent their constituencies with or without their constituencies' consent. The fact that they do represent their constituencies is not in any dispute. Whether or not their representation of their constituencies is actually representative of what the constituencies want is another question. But there is no disputing the fact that we do have representatives who represent specific constituencies, not just everybody. In other words, my congressman is not going to let anybody into his office in Washington, D.C. to talk to him about shit unless that person lives in his district. If he does live in his district, that congressman pretty much has to let you in and listen to your shit. Now, congressman may not be in their office very often as a consequence, but nevertheless, you might not see it as a legitimate means of representing your perspective. I would agree with that. You can't possibly expect that a representative is going to meaningfully represent anybody's perspective except their own. You can just hope that the representative's perspective is more consistent with community values than an alternative person who also wanted the position. Well, CBGJG says, I have basic natural rights that are violated in the process of government control. Well, that's true. And there are a lot of areas in which we are imposed upon by the government because the government, by definition, is that which has a monopoly on use of force. So, yes, there are natural rights that get violated, but can you point to one that you feel violated about specifically? Because there is, whether we like it or not, a compromise between competing interests and principled restraint. So if a government always prioritized principled restraint, then presumably they'd never err on the side of violating a right, but they often err on the side of failing to protect rights.
I love you.
Are you going to bed?
Yeah.
I love you, darling.
I love you too.
Good night.
Good night.
So, no, CBJG, we're on the same page here. The amount of earnings that the government seizes from the American people is appalling. Remembering that the so-called withholding of something like 33% for Social Security is fundamentally a tax because if you're paying that now and you're young, you're not going to get that paid back to you. You're preaching to the choir here about taxation in general. But but taxation does not equal theft. So the problem with taxation is this, and it's a huge problem, is that the government is that which is the protection racket, people. Okay, it's always been that. That's what the government is. The government is the mafia that goes down your street and says, "Oh, you're going to want to pay us protection, or else somebody's going to burn down your house here." The difference is the mafia is the one who burns down your house then when you don't pay them. The government is saying something a little bit different, though. They say, you have to pay your taxes because we protect you from actual threats. So the government will throw you in a cage, and I'm not disputing that. See, look, CBJG, you are using a bunch of sort of dramatic, inflammatory, libertarian language to get me to understand that this is use of force here, that people are being coerced, and this is a big bad thing. And you are preaching to the choir in that regard, except you say, I don't want their protection and I didn't consent. But, I mean, the thing is, the reason I want rule of law is because I'd like people to be accountable, which means I want there to be civil rule of law. That is to say, when there's accidental liability, I want people to be accountable. And I want there to be criminal law, so that when people are criminally accountable for things, they can be held accountable. If you are genuinely an anarchist, then you should say specifically, I don't want people to be held accountable. Because that's what it means. Otherwise, you might be deceiving yourself about that sort of thing. All right, Waldo Ludowski says government is a way to prop up fiat currency. The weird thing is, fiat currency isn't propped up at all. It attains its value by the fact that you have to pay sometimes to the government, and the government only accepts this kind of currency. So it's not actually propped up. The fiat is fiat literally means make it so, or by decree, or something like that. So the thing is, fiat currencies don't get propped up. There are no non-fiat currencies. If you have a gold standard, gold is the fiat currency. If you have a silver standard, silver is the fiat currency. Whatever you make a standard becomes the fiat currency. The only thing that can't become a fiat currency is a commodity that's non-fungible. So the key thing that makes money potentially valuable to or function as money. Okay, so CBJG. Listen, there are two kinds of legal codes, more than two, but two that I'm mentioning here. One is called a civil code. So if in fact I accidentally but negligently destroy your property, then I should have to pay you for it, but I shouldn't have to go to jail. That's the distinction between civil and criminal law. You're mistaking the word civil for meaning civilized. The distinction is whether or not your behavior is liable for punishment or simply liable for remuneration. It's generally a good idea, also CBJG, that when you're in a stage of figuring shit out, as you are right now, to try to remember to ask questions. Horse Bumper, as I said, I'm going to refer to it as a citizen democracy because that's the common understanding of the term nowadays. Is the term formally is a representative democracy. By your reasoning, the words representative democracy would be fundamentally an oxymoron and self-contradictory, and I wouldn't be able to say that either. But we both know that a representative democracy is the most common conventional current term to describe America. Do I feel as though I'm being misleading or abusive to language when I say that I want to maximize the values of a citizen democracy? No, I'm saying I want to maximize the values whereby the citizens, through their political expression of voting, actually meaningfully help us to direct the country in a grown-up, intelligent way. Okay, so one of my strengths as a leader is I know when to say no to INTPs. I also know when to say no to INTJs. I know when to say no to ENFJs. I know when to say no to everybody. Your mom gets mad when she hears me talk because she's an INFP. Well, listen, Dave Sanderson's mom. The thing is, I do speak with a somewhat indignant kind of meow, meow, meow voice sometimes. But the problem is that people who approach things with a lot of their own interests, and you have an interested calculus as your dominant function, they tend to push through really bad ideas because they feel so strongly that they're a good idea when they're actually a terrible idea and they have no business even ideating in that area of thought. So like public policy is not going to be a strong suit of any FI. They're going to keep worrying about how these people are suffering or something. But you got to put your emotions aside when you're dealing with matters of public policy because it's a universal matter. It's not a particularist matter. And your feelings in that regard, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how pure and true, no matter how morally based they are, cause irreparable harm when allowed to make decisions. Jose says yes when he proves your point, pauses and moves on as if he weren't speaking of it anymore. Which point did I prove? Let me see what your point was. The only thing that makes money is the government saying it is so. Governments only exist to enforce fiat currencies. I mean, if that were the case, then there wouldn't have been any governments before fiat currencies, but there were. So we can falsify that immediately. Right? Unless you're saying governments now exist only for that purpose, but their purpose changed at some point when fiat currencies came into being. I mean, they don't have a purpose, right? It's whoever has all the guns either can exploit it, use their power to exploit, or use their power to justify their power by protecting their population, right? So it's incorrect to think that governments are purposed like that. It doesn't work like that. Governments naturally occur when one group of violent people are able to attain and secure control. So, like in Somalia, there's still sort of rolling anarchy, right? At some point, one warlord will rise above the others, become the strongest, and then he will successfully kill all the people who want to fight against him. And then what happens when they do that is that's the government now. So what's the purpose of that government? It doesn't have a purpose. It's the strongest guy forced himself into controlling the situation. This guy's crazy, rude, ignorant, and he's projecting his own problems into the world, and that's why his idea is bad. Well, so, okay, it's like, this is going to be one of my biggest challenges, is that feelers think, FI types use FI to make determinations about things, just like I use TI to make determinations about things. So when I'm making TI determinations about FI stuff, I typically make bad choices and I end up in bad relationships like Kimberly, or not knowing what's important to me and all this other kind of stuff. I'm using the wrong tool function, in that case, for me, tool function, to address something that I need to use my feelings about. And the challenge for me is going to be trying to explain to FI people that they need to have some humility, that we're talking about something that's going to be what is best for everybody and what's fairest for everybody, and how can we best serve the interests of the country as a whole. So if you're like Dave Sanderson's mom and you're an FI Dom, my challenge is going to be to say, okay, look, even if you really strongly dislike me and you think I'm an asshole and you think I'm cocky or whatever other thing you want to think, I want to ask you to put your feelings aside for a second and think about two things. Number one, my intentions. Because as a feeler, that's going to be critically important to you. Even if you think I'm an asshole, please believe me when I tell you I am a patriotic and well-intentioned asshole. I will use my assholery on behalf of you and every other citizen in this country. And number two, remember that these sort of matters are not matters that are best determined by fluid authenticity. They're matters that are best determined by a calling down of uncertainty into narrow binaries. It requires somebody like me. And if you can put your dislike of me aside and your like of the country first, I would love it if you'd vote for me. Something like that, you know? Uh-oh. INTP ground fight, everybody. Hey, everybody, it's an INTP ground fight. Want to watch these two guys battle over which words count as legitimate before they start arguing about anything? That sounds like a absolutely delightful kind of argument. At this point, she wouldn't vote for you. Right. It would be almost impossible to change your mind. I like tough challenges. I bet you this, David Sanderson. If I was able to meet her in person, shake her hand, hear her concerns, address them, walk away, I'd have her vote. For one thing, most people vote for politicians, like for big offices anyway, that they meet in person and they get to see, you know. I'm not a bad guy. I make my mistakes too. I could be a little callous or a little careless, but I care about people overall. I feel very bad when I hurt people, and I'm truly and genuinely a patriot. I was saying to Rachel today, it's not too late to fix this about Los Angeles and the country in general. It's not too late to fix this. Right now, the West Coast is falling apart. It's falling apart because the homeless are taking over the cities. The courts have prevented the localities from ejecting these parties from their sidewalks, and as a consequence, and with COVID shutting down the economy and everything, you've got people all over the streets. You got lots of people who don't have homes. You've got a situation where, in general, the world is such that if you don't have a certain amount of TE, it can be difficult to sustain your own household and family and stuff if you have a medium kind of job. If you don't have a great high paying job. I saw a statistic that, and this was before COVID, that something like 90% of the country has less than $400 in emergency funds, savings or whatever. And that usually applies to me too. That will help you grow your channel. It would be really easy if you're an own person. I mean, I would love to do that. And I do want to try to get onto different podcasts and to do different people, talk to different people and stuff. The key thing is I need to find a media interface person who's going to do that legwork for me, who can contact those various things, try to get me booked on one of them, who's willing to send out a bunch of emails and engage in some networking back and forth with the secretary, the Joe Rogan show or whatever, and finally make it such that one of those fairly big shows actually books me. In the absence of such a person, I will at some point here start trying to do that job myself. But I do know this, that if I'm going to successfully run for president, it's going to have to be a team of people helping me. There's going to have to be a whole team of people that are going to get me elected. It's not going to be me by myself. That's true, Sean. You do. You do indeed. Okay, so I'm going to call this a stream. I'm tired. I'm not really tired. I'm not going to go to bed, I don't think, right now, but I'm tired of streaming, I guess. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to bed, but I don't know. Who are you saying come on to, dude, about? Okay, that's cool. CBJG. Just remember that, yeah, I've heard seeing the newsroom sentiment. Just remember, though, that governments aren't purposed. They're not started with a purpose. To say that the purpose of government is meow is not true. They're naturally occurring phenomena. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.